I let out a relaxed sigh as I continue lying down on the mostly dead and snow-covered tree, simply listening to the sounds of the demons' panic due to the 7 different plagues I let loose in their camp. Something that is probably a little cruel, but considering that we're at war, not something I need to care about. And since the plagues only infect those I consider my enemies, I let them spread into the air and basically in any way possible. Each of my plagues created by blood plague is highly contagious, and since they're magic-based, they don't exactly build up any sort of immunity to the plagues. And while I'm not really sure how that works, I don't really care either. It's magic, Tar comments from his place lying on my chest. True. Anyways, this is a rather easy way to hunt an entire battalion of demons. After all, there's no way I'd be able to deal with several hundred class 3 and 4 demons on my own without whittling them down first. They also can't find me, considering that I'm several hundred kilometers away from them. Something that they don't even consider to be possible, thanks to how active my plagues are and how they're getting reinfected after being healed. Now if only I could target those with healing skills from here. That would make this rather easy. Well, the demons wouldn't die just from your plagues, Tar says as he stretches a little. And I admit, he's right. My plagues I currently have aren't really designed to kill. They're mostly to weaken the infected targets. Although you said that the skill should give me fatal plagues at the higher levels? Yeah, but those will probably cost a lot more mana to spread, Tar answers, making me hum a little in response. Sounds about right. The plagues they have right now should significantly decrease their fighting capability, both in terms of focus, physical strength, mental strength, their speed, and basically any possible way. They do have 7 different plagues after all, even if they keep healing them. It's also burning their mana while they're healing. Which is a win-win situation. I just have to sit here as they spread the plague more, because the only way they could possibly get rid of it completely is by healing every last person there at once. Since every infected individual literally breathes and coughs out the plague into the air around them, not to mention that they're spreading it to everything they touch. And from what I understand of their forces, which are mostly made up of a bunch of ice and cold-focused magic users, they aren't going to be able to heal that much at once. While sitting in on Gramp's strategy meetings, I learned the structure of the demon army. They have squads, which are their lowest groups of troops, consisting of just about 10 or so demons, with one captain leading them. Then they have a platoon consisting of about 50 demons, a company with about 100 demons, a company with about 250 demons, a battalion C, which is what the demons I'm spreading the plague through are, C, with about 500 to 1,000 demons, a brigade, which is controlled solely by nobles and has tens of thousands of demons, and lastly, the legions. Overall, the legions are the main forces of the war. They're each army as a whole, so I guess I could just call a legion an army on its own. Meanwhile, each level has their own class along with one class below them serving in them. Except troops, which are just class 1 demons. And legions, which are basically everything combined into one. Platoons have class 2s and is and are led by a demon commander, companies have class 3s and 2s and are led by a demon elite, battalions have class IVs and 3s and are led by a demon general, and brigades have class versus and IVs with a demon marshal leading them. And all of those groups are a part of a legion, which is led by a higher-ranking noble demon, with the current clan demons on Earth controlling all of the legions. But because of the size of each force growing exponentially, I can't exactly run in and attack. These are all organized forces of demons, each with magic of their own. And this particular battalion has about 730 or so demons in it. Not a force that I can take on without some extra precautions. I look down at my skin to find the faint white glow still there, shining in the darkness of the snowy night. Good thing Amelia used a skill of hers to nullify the sight of any human or human technology from seeing me. So I don't have to worry about humans seeing me transform, nor do I have to worry about them recording it. And as long as I transform before attacking them, the demons won't know what I look like in my human form. Although they'll be rather confused as to why a blood lycan is attacking them. The only ones who'll know the truth are the nobles, who will just ignore me since they should know I'm on Earth and will be fighting them. Well, ignore me as long as I don't cause too much trouble. which I'm planning on doing. But I can deal with them when that happens. Although this particular skill of Amelia's only lasts for about 3 or so months. So I'm going to have to get it refreshed periodically. But 3 months is a pretty good amount of time. Have you decided what you'll do for that particular issue? Tar asks, making me purse my lips with a sour look on my face. I don't have much of a choice. I'm going to have to get a skill similar to Amelia's to redact my own name from now on, since hers is running out of uses on me quickly. Something I find rather annoying. That she can only use that particular skill on someone a few times. Then again, it's not a mythic skill she's using to redact my name. It's a legendary one. Also one that she doesn't have etched, unfortunately. So it doesn't have the boost that the original etcher of a skill gets for etching the skill. If you get another etched skill slot, the current redaction on your name won't be able to hold it and will shatter, Tar comments. Yeah, and then my identity will be revealed to all of Earth in the process. So my only option really is to get a skill to redact my own name before that happens. I glance in the direction of the battalion as I listen to what's happening over there once more. Although maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if I were never mind. I let out a sigh as I look up again and close my eyes. Those demons sure are taking a while to tire out. Nearly 4 entire days pass in silence as I laze around occasionally hunting a random demon that gets close before moving again. And throughout that time, the battalion has grown weaker and weaker to the point that I'm pretty sure I can take them now. Their healers in particular seem to be out of mana entirely at this point, considering how they stopped healing and started focusing all of their attention on searching for me. Which lets my plagues grow more severe. Something else that I find rather nice is that I'm getting life energy just from the minor damage my plagues are doing to them. A very nice benefit that I hadn't realized was a thing at first. It's a little too powerful if you ask me, Tar comments before suddenly snorting from his place on my shoulder as I stand atop a tree. I just realized you might end up getting more plague and corruption related skills and achievements just from this rather cruel method of warfare you're conducting. Maybe. Probably. Okay, yeah, I'll absolutely be getting achievements related to this. But skills? I doubt it. Anyways, I think it should be fine to attack soon. I'll just give it a few more hours to make sure they don't heal up again before I attack. You going all in right away? Tar asks, sounding a little bit excited for this fight. Which I understand completely, considering how I haven't really gotten much hunting in even after coming here. I purse my lips for a moment at his question before shaking my head. No. I'll fight personally to whittle them down and maybe let them gain some confidence before I use Blood of Ruin to wipe out the rest of them. It should make for a good plan. Start off by frightening them with my sudden appearance while they're so weak, take out a lot of them in the midst of their surprise, then finish them off when they're gaining confidence and won't just run the moment they see Blood of Ruin. Sounds like a plan, Tar says with a nod of his head. Then he vanishes, and I stretch my arms a little. Looks like it's about time to start the hunt. I transform into my beast form before stretching a little again, to get any kinks out from my lazing around. Let's go. I jump from the tree to the next one in the direction of the battalion, then the next, and the next. The demon's second base camp. Yetta lets out a sigh as she leans on her spear while looking around the trees at the edge of the camp, only to look back and find the rest of her team all exhausted around her just like she is. But all of them are mostly out of mana by now, thanks to the diseases that have been going around the camp for the last several days. I don't even care anymore, please just make this end. At first, Yetta, just like all of the other Yetis, Wendigos, and Frost Salamanders, were all livid at whoever spread the diseases through the battalion. But now she's just exhausted and hoping to go home. To get out of this place and recover from the diseases. If it weren't for the Demon King's orders, Yetta suspects several demons would have already deserted by now. But that's not a possibility. Not with his orders. Yetta feels the exhaustion in her body, still growing, thanks to the plague. And even if she knows that it won't kill her just based off of instinct, she's not stupid enough to believe that the culprit behind the diseases will simply leave them be after they're weakened. I'm surprised the force of humans hasn't attacked already. Several hundred humans should easily be able to wipe us out at this rate with us in this condition. So it means they probably only have a few hundred and are waiting for us to get at our absolute breaking point. The Yeti feels real fear at that thought before she shakes her head and stands up straight, using all of her strength to stand rigid and with the power that she has shown in the form of ice coating her skin. But when she reaches her full height, she frowns. Because a flash of red catches her eye in the snow-covered trees. Everyone, watch out, I see something in the trees, she tells the others, her voice carrying through their team's Antonal's telepathy skill. It might dash. Her words are cut off when a blood lycan of all things rushes out of the trees in it, no, her, bipedal beast form, making Yetta physically jump in surprise as abject terror appears on her face. Redacted, who/blidma/ly-/ level 532. The blood lycan, or at least, Yetta thinks it's a blood lycan, has blood-red eyes that shine with an eerie light in the dark of the snow-covered night. And that red light is joined by the red, black, and blue electricity running across the blood lycan's body and armor. She and Yetta can clearly tell it's a she considering the blood lycan's figure despite her being in her beast form is wearing armor made out of blood metal and radiating with enchantments and blood runes that Yetta can sense with her own rune magic. Yetta's eyes are drawn to the black and red claws that are quickly covered in blood metal as the blood lycan rushes out of the trees towards them. Then, as Yetta raises her spear to block the strikes of the blood lycan, she sees the blood lycan suddenly change direction towards one of her team members. And under her eyes, the blood lycan draws her claws straight across the chest of Icefang, one of the Wendigos in her team. No! Yetta shouts, but the blood lycan just ignores her as she tears the throat out of her teammate. Then the girl Yetta is assuming the blood lycan is a child since it's only class 4 and is as small as she is sprints towards another one of her teammates while seemingly drawing blood from the corpse of Icefang. Right when the girl is about to tear the throat out of her other Wendigo teammate Frostmoon, Yetta shouts, "Why would you help those disgusting humans? Why would you betray your own clan?" The girl pauses for a split second before proceeding to tear apart Frostmoon, followed soon after by every other member of Yetta's team, each of whom are too exhausted from the diseases to put up much of a fight against her. Then she finally walks up to Yetta while flexing her claws a little and controlling the blood dripping off of them to absorb into her claws and harden. I don't owe an explanation to a pawn who's just attacking on the orders of someone else out of blind devotion, the blood lycan answers, her voice having a terrifying note to it despite the voice itself sounding beautiful. Like she didn't have the head of a wolf right now and were still in her lycan form. Yetta's eyes widen in shock at that, only for everything to go black right after the blood lycan sprints at her, making the last thing the Yeti ever sees be the blood lycan's claws meeting her gaze. I frown at the corpse lying near my feet before shaking my head and sprinting through the trees to find the next group to hunt. Sorry, Yeti, but you're on the wrong side of the war. And I'm sure I'll find plenty of other demons that are not necessarily bad people, even according to the biased opinions of the humans. Just that they're obsessively devoted to Gramps and don't even care about what they're doing. They just believe the humans are disgusting and should be killed. Then again, even if they were on Tartarus, they'd likely end up attacking me anyways, just to grow stronger. When my crest isn't shown, that is. Tartarus is just that sort of world after all. A rather sad thing, but there wasn't much Gramps could do, considering the demon's instincts, and the lacking intelligence of most of the demons. Not to mention the fact that most of the demons are purely carnivores until they reach Class V, so most of their food consists of other demons. One of the many things the mutation turning them into demons in the first place did to them. Made it so they didn't need a significant amount of the vitamins and nutrients humans needed. I grimace at the thought before reaching the next team of demons and tearing them apart just like the first. Then I move on to the next, and the next, and the next. And soon enough, it becomes a bit of a routine with me taking on any demons that are a part of this battalion, including the ones nearly 200 levels above me. Simply because they're all weakened too much by my plagues to put up anywhere near as much of a fight as they would before. In fact, the only demons that are actually able to fight me well are those who are about 200 or so levels above me. I'm kind of surprised by how weak this battalion is though, since the vast majority of them are all in the first couple hundred levels of Class 4, or not even Class 4 in the first place. There are also quite a few demons in these teams that aren't even sapient. Time passes, and by the time I've hunted nearly 100 demons, all of the teams finally form up on the base, no longer leaving it to scout. Which makes it even easier for me to spread the disease through their groups. Something I honestly wonder if they even considered. Then again, they seem to be on their last straws now. I climb a tree on a mountain looking over the valley their base is located in before standing at the top of it with my arms folded under my chest, my finger tapping from time to time on my elbow as I listen in on their leader's conversation with his troops. I'm telling you, we need to leave. But we can't. We're under strict orders to dash. His Majesty wouldn't want us to just sacrifice ourselves to a filthy human, would he? The target isn't a human, the leader eventually speaks up, interrupting the other demons in his tent and making me raise a brow as I stand on the tree in my lycan form. One of our scouts has returned with intel that the attacker in question is a blood lycan. Silence fills their tent for several seconds, only for each of the several demons in it to blow up at once into shouts. A blood lycan? Why is it here? Why is there a blood lycan on Earth? How did it get here? There hasn't been any news of one of the lords of the blood lycan clan coming to Earth. Who is it? Silence, the leader declares, shutting all of the demons up immediately. Then he continues, we aren't sure about who the blood lycan is, as they have their name redacted somehow. And their species is also messed up as well, likely due to whatever is redacting their name. I raise my other brow at that rather convenient excuse served up to me on a silver platter. What about recognizable features of the blood lycan? One of the other demons asks, breaking their silence. The leader doesn't seem to mind this time as he answers, all we have is that the blood lycan was in their bipedal beast form, was small and most likely a child blood lycan, was class 4, and is the most likely culprit behind the blood plague. Which means they're our enemy. All of the demons go silent after that. And they stay silent for a while. What can we do? One of them finally asks. But all the leader does is answer, the only thing we can do. Follow our orders and fight it. We're on Earth, and the blood lycan doesn't have her crest showing. There's nothing else we can do but fight to survive. Looks like my identity really is safe. Well, extremely few Class 4 demons have ever actually seen your grandfather or your father, and even fewer know that you're on Earth. Tar states some good points. And while blood lycans never exile children, they will probably just assume you're some blood lycan child that ran away and ended up on Earth while deciding to rebel or something by damaging the war effort. I blink at that. They will really think I'm some sort of entitled brat having a tantrum? Seriously? Wow. It makes for a really good cover-up, but at the same time, it's kind of sad that they'd truly believe a blood lycan child would just throw a tantrum by slaughtering hundreds of Class 3 and Class 4 demons on Earth. Also, I'm getting sick of being called a child. I thought I was done with that shit after leaving Tartarus. It's infuriating. Well, technically by demon terms you are a child, Tar comments, and I just let out a huff at that and begin walking towards the base. I'll be turning 20 years in just a few days. I am not a child. Anyways, time to finish off this base. Yadera grimaces as he looks out over the remaining 400 demons of his battalion. A meager force compared to how many demons he had under him in the beginning. And all of it was caused by just a single demon, not even a human, much less the force of thousands of humans he was expecting. Even if it's a clan demon, isn't this too much? How can a single demon handle so many? Shouldn't they have run out of mana by now? Or were they using some sort of extremely powerful legendary skill to do all of this? The Yeti lets out a short growl of frustration before suddenly jerking his head to the side as he sees a flash of red through the snow. Then he growls louder for a moment and shouts, "Blood lycan child. Why are you doing this?" All of his men move to their feet, pushing themselves through the exhaustion and pain of their diseases as they turn to face the lone female blood lycan in her beast form. A form of only 2.5 meters in height. Maybe not even that much. Yadera glances around his men for a moment before coming to the decision that he'll kill off all of his own men after dealing with the blood lycan child, just to make sure no word of it reaches the higher-ups. To Yadera's surprise, the blood lycan girl doesn't stop moving even to talk. Instead, she just continues walking towards them until she is in the middle of the sickened demons, some of whom are beginning to tense up in order to attack her. And right when Yadera is about to order them all to attack her at once, she stops moving and raises her hand into the air. Then a chill runs down Yadera's spine. And he's not the only one, considering the fear he sees on the other demons' faces around him. Under his and all of the other demons' eyes, blood begins to rip itself out of the blood lycan's body by the droplets. And to top it off, more blood begins to rush out of a pocket dimension space that opens above her hand. But the girl herself just ignores this all as she watches the blood rise into the air to form an orb. An orb that swiftly starts turning a corrupted black in color. Oh no. The blood orb begins to spin, slowly at first, and then faster and faster until it's moving too fast for Yadera's eyes to keep up with it. Then little droplets of blood start to appear all over the large base camp and even in the forest around them. And the moment Yadera sees those droplets, he begins running for his life. Yadera quickly thinks back to the troops he had already sent to explain his battalion's situation to the legion he's a part of, but he knows reinforcements won't be coming quickly enough to matter. Abject terror fills the demons' hearts as he runs through his base, passing straight through the hundreds of demons who are too terrified to move and don't recognize what it is they're looking at. But out of the corner of his eye he finds several other demons running just like him. His diseased condition makes him too slow though, and by the time he reaches the outskirts of the base camp, he's left staring at lines of blood that are quickly turning black after they'd connected to the orb in the sky without his notice, blocking his escape route. So he turns back around to find the many droplets of blood having turned into orbs themselves. Yadera looks around the area in terror, only for his gaze to eventually settle on the princess. If I can just knock her unconscious without killing her, the skill should stop. With this thought in his head, he begins running through the other demons towards the girl who is now on one knee due to the mana drain of the skill. But he doesn't manage to make it before he feels a powerful tugging sensation in his blood that makes him stumble. And while the tugging sensation is only barely not strong enough to rip his own blood out of his body, it's not the same for many of the other demons around him, as dozens of demons end up with their blood being forcefully ripped out of their body through their skin and fur before it rises to the orbs above them along with the blood on the ground. No. I can't let it end like this. I was supposed to make a name for myself in this war. Supposed to raise my status on Tartarus. Yadera fails to climb back to his feet after falling to the ground, and by now the orbs are cracking and droplets of black blood are all starting to fall all over the base camp and beyond. Screams immediately fill the camp as the blood of ruin corrodes anything and anyone it touches, including the snow around them and in the air, as it starts to turn the base camp into a barren wasteland of blood and red ash. And Yadera isn't an exception to that, as he screams until his throat is too corroded to scream anymore. Despite his screaming in pain though, Yadera can't help but look one last time at his princess. And despite it all, despite everything she's done to him, he can't help but feel proud to have a princess as strong as her. Even if she's acting out right now and fighting against the wrong side, likely due to her human genes. At least my death will mean something, and when she's returned to the right side of the war she can rain destruction on the filthy humans. These are the last thoughts Yadera has before he dies, the last image engraved in his mind being that of his princess rising to her feet again as she looks out over the destruction she had wrought. I watch in silence all the way till the last demon of the battalion dies before letting out a sigh. But I don't regret anything. I don't feel bad for them. Because these demons all signed up voluntarily to come here and dominate the human world. All just for their own advancement and for their own prestige. Even if a few of the demons in the battalion did show some rather human emotions by the end of it. Well, they were all human once, Tar comments as I turn around and quickly sprint out of the area. Or at least, their ancestors were. Yeah. I continue running until I'm several kilometers from the base camp before I transform out of my beast form and stretch a little. Then I control the blood covering me to push it into my blood storage as I slowly start walking through the mountains towards the human headquarters. A place that should be located a couple thousand kilometers to the east. After spending almost a week outside in the snow while waiting for those demons to weaken, it'll be very nice to get back into my bed for a night. I continue walking for a while before eventually letting my system messages flow. Something that's been a long time coming since I haven't done it since the start of this hunt. Level 542 Frost Salamander defeated. A small EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature above your level. Level 652 Frost Salamander defeated. A significant EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature over 100 levels above your level. Level 522 Yeti defeated. A significant EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature above your level. Level 671 Yeti defeated. A significant EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature over 100 levels above your level. Level 530 Wendigo defeated. A significant EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature above your level. Level 649 Wendigo defeated. A significant EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature over 100 levels above your level. Level 731 Yeti defeated. A significant EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature over 100 levels above your level. 30 skill points are awarded for killing 300 creatures in a single use of a skill. 30 skill points are awarded for spreading multiple plagues through a vast area so that anyone targeted who enters the area will immediately become infected. 25 skill points are awarded for infecting over 500 creatures with multiple plagues. 25 skill points are awarded for infecting over 500 creatures with a plague. 10 skill points are awarded for infecting over 100 creatures with a plague. 5 skill points are awarded for killing your first Yeti. 5 skill points are awarded for killing your first Frost Salamander. 1 skill point is awarded for killing a demon, X187. Congrats, you have leveled up to level 532. 5 free points have been awarded to you and your stats have been updated. Congrats, you have leveled up to level 599. 5 free points have been awarded to you and your stats have been updated. Skilled Blood of Ruin has leveled up to level 15. Skilled Blood Empowerment has leveled up to level 11. Skilled Blood Empowerment has leveled up to level 12. Skill Metallicized Blood has leveled up to level 17. Skill Metallicized Blood Claws has leveled up to level 26. Skill Blood Nullification has leveled up to level 4. Skill Life Sense has leveled up to level 16. A hint of a smile stretches across my face as I walk, proud of my achievements. And I don't have to worry about the plagues I let loose either, since they were eradicated alongside the rest of basically everything thanks to Blood of Ruin. So win-win. Also, that was a lot of achievements over my use of plagues. Which was kind of expected. What wasn't expected was the whole getting 90 skill points for it thing. Not that I'm complaining. The more skill points I get, the happier I am. And with this recent hunt, I now have 318 skill points to spend. I also didn't expect Blood of Ruin to be able to kill them all with a single use of the skill. Although I guess that was probably because of Blood Empowerment, which I'm pretty sure expanded the range of Blood of Ruin and made it stronger. Even if it drained me quite a bit of life energy. Sanguine Effect restored that quickly enough, considering how I massacred an entire battalion, but it was still rather uncomfortable. And looking at how Blood Empowerment leveled up in the process, completely worth it. I stretch a little and yawn. Something that doesn't happen very often considering that I don't actually need sleep anymore. Not since reaching class 3. At least, not if I don't stress my body out like I did in this battle. Not to mention that I've been hunting mostly non-stop for days now. I continue walking as I consider whether or not I should spend the 318 skill points I have right now on leveling up skills or on getting new ones. Because if I keep taking every new legendary skill I get, I won't really be able to level up my current ones very high. But at the same time, I think a new legendary skill is worth more than a few levels on an old one. What do you think, Tar? I think you should just look at the new legendary skills even if you don't buy them, Tar suggests, and I admit he's right. If there isn't a legendary skill I'm interested in enough to buy over-leveling skills, I just won't get it. Although I doubt I'll get any new legendary skills with these achievements alone. With the exception of the killing 300 creatures with a single use of a skill achievement. That one I can see maybe unlocking a legendary skill. Maybe. It should at least be counted towards a legendary skill, even if it doesn't unlock one just yet. With that thought in mind, I open the skill store to look for a new legendary skill. And I find nothing. Well, that's disappointing. In that case, time to figure out what to level up with skill points. The first thing I do is bring both Blood Plague and Bloodthirst to level 15 by spending 270 skill points total, following which I stand in place while staring at my status after allocating my free points, of course for several seconds. Then I eventually settle on spending the remaining 48 skill points on bringing Blood Retribution to level 12 from level 10. Or rather, I use 46 of the 48 remaining points on doing that. The last 2 points are just gonna sit there gathering dust until the next time I get skill points. Which shouldn't be long, considering I'll probably go out on another hunt either tomorrow or the day after. Probably tomorrow. Anyways, after making sure everything's done, I take another look at my status overall. Name, Scarlet Art Esker de Arcaren. Species, Human/Blood Lycan Hybrid. Magic, Blood. Age, 19. Level, 599. SP, 2. Stats. Physical, 1743. Mental, 1743. Magical, 1743. Physical/level, 2. Mental/level, 1. Magical/level, 2. Free points, 0. Mana, 1, 312 033.9/4,532,355. Free points/level, 5. Active skills. Pain Diffusion. Skill level, 22. Description. Null Magic Field. Skill level, 21. Description. Blood of Ruin. Skill level, 15. Description. Blood Nullification. Skill level, 4. Description. Metallicized Blood. Skill level, 17. Description. Blood Empowerment. Skill level, 12. Description. Blood Swarm. Skill level, 6. Description. Beast Transformation. Skill level, Static. Description. Metallicized Blood Claws. Skill level, 26. Description. Life Absorption. Skill level, 30. Description. Partial Shift. Skill level, Static. Description. Blood Pull. Skill level, 20. Description. Blood Chains. Skill level, 18. Description. Blood Diffusion. Skill level, 15. Description. Gradual Corruption Nullification. Skill level, 20. Description. Blood Plague. Skill level, 15. Description. Crimson Overdrive. Skill level, 20. Description. Blood Shadow. Skill level, 10. Description. Blood Retribution. Skill level, 12. Description. Blood Armor. Skill level, 10. Description. Blood Manifestation. Skill level, 10. Description. Blood Sacrifice. Skill level, 10. Description. Blood Boil. Skill level, 10. Description. Blood Bank. Skill level, 10. Description. Passive skills. Blood Regeneration. Skill level, 20. Description. Blood Aura. Skill level, static. Description: blood absorption. Skill level, static. Description: sanguine effect. Skill level, static. Description: life sense. Skill level, 16. Description: bloodthirst. Skill level, 15. Description: bloody thorns. Skill level, 15. Description: predator V. Skill level, static. Description: a very nice looking status, if I do say so myself. Nothing overly new, but bloodthirst is definitely useful in this war, so it's best to raise its level a bit. Especially since it's a lot more useful at higher levels. And if I'm gonna be using Blood Plague to wipe out battalions like this, I might as well go ahead and level that skill up too. Very nice to see the fast progression again though, since it always slows down the further I get into a class. A rather annoying facet of the system. Or I guess the universe, since the system isn't what decides how things work. For the most part. Considering how that battalion only had about a third or a fourth of its numbers in Class 4, I don't think I'll be able to level up as quickly with the next battalion. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up only getting half as many levels with each battalion I wipe out. Not to mention how it'll probably get harder as I destroy more of them, since I wouldn't be surprised if the battalion here had a teleporter or two who managed to escape and warn the other demons of my actions. At least I know none of them saw my use of Blood of Ruin. I would have heard them otherwise, not to mention sensed them with life sense. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that I should expect the other battalions to have more healers amongst them when I attack. But that won't be an issue. Just means I have to sit there longer waiting for them to wear out. Especially considering that I have more mana now than before, thanks to the large influx of levels I got from this first battalion. Not to mention more plagues. Actually, come to think of it, I need to test out the 3 new plagues I got access to with the level up of Blood Plague. Because if they're good enough, I might be able to make quite the use of them in the next battles. I continue walking through the snow-covered mountains until I find a wild animal and quickly try to use Blood Plague on it, making the different types of plagues appear in my thoughts as I do. And just moments later, I find myself smirking. Not bad. Not bad at all. 2 of the plagues are meh. Not much better than the others. But the 10th plague of the 10 plagues? That one seems to make use of my null magic a little, by nullifying a very minuscule amount of the target's mana when they use their mana. A plague that'll reduce the amount of time it'll take for me to wait out their healers, seeing as they're gonna be burning even more mana every time they cure each other of my plagues. The only thing I need to worry about is the possibility that they may have a demon who can somehow cleanse the entire area at once of my plagues. But they'd have to have a Class B demon to do that, and I can't see them bringing one to a mere battalion. Especially not this early on. I continue sprinting through the mountains again in the direction of the base, with a wide smile on my face. One night's rest coming up soon, then the next hunt begins. Silger heaves in exhaustion as he appears once more after teleporting dozens of kilometers in a single go, only to teleport again and again until he finally arrives at the teleportation hub in the secondary line base of the demon army on Earth. A base fortified with blood metal walls, created by a couple lower-level blood lycans who had recently crossed the gate into Earth. But Silger ignores the grand sight that is the massive base and its equally massive walls surrounding it as he rushes through the base, teleporting in between the various other demons inside of it who are all going about their own business for the war effort. He even ignores the attention he begins to gather both from his weary appearance, the occasional popped blood vessels and other blood-related diseases visible on his body, and his obvious hurry while rushing straight towards the main building. The cosmic Lampirid doesn't manage to make it far into the main base before he's stopped by 2 nobles, both of whom are vampires who grab onto him with their darkness magic. Draven von Nightborn Vampire level 1201. Aurora von Nightborn Vampire level 1202. I have an urgent message for the Legion Marshal. Silger shouts loudly in the base, seemingly uncaring of the bindings made out of pure darkness, holding him in place. The two vampires share a glance, before the female of the two looks back at him and sniffs, only to grimace. "You're plagued," the vampire states, her voice being slightly high-pitched, matching her appearance that humans would associate with a 16 or 17-year-old girl. Then the other vampire next to her, a male with the same aged appearance that looks like he could be her twin, adds, "And you're already spreading your filth to the rest of the army." Silger's eyes widen in shock at that, but he doesn't get a chance to say anything before the darkness envelopes him entirely, following which he's left in absolute silence for a period of time unknown to him. And when the darkness eventually goes away, he finds himself in a medical center being cared for by a dark dryad, a demon he doesn't see very often that is very similar to the dryad spirits a lot of summoners summon. The dark dryad is currently healing him with a strange light that's a mixture of black, red, and light green colors, making all of his injuries and fatigue quickly fade away. "This is your only warning. Do not to carry in highly contagious plagues to the base ever again," the female vampire, who Silger now notices standing at the entrance of the medical center, declares with a cold look on her face. And it's only now that Silger notices her attire, which is a set of black and red armor using a large amount of blood metal in its design with a flaring skirt over pants and several plates of armor over silk on the top. Silger quickly gets off the bed and bows as he exclaims, "Viscount and Viscountess Nightborne, I'm here to report the loss of the 98th Battalion." Silence fills the medical center, making Silger tense in anticipation of their response. But none ever comes, so he peeks up to find the two vampire twins staring at each other, likely using some sort of telepathy skill to speak privately. Then after nearly an entire minute, the two look back at him and the sister asks, "There wasn't any advanced intelligence of a force of humans anywhere near the 98th Battalion, so taking into account your condition when you arrived, is it safe to assume this was done by a knight?" Silger immediately shakes his head, surprising both vampires along with everyone else who is watching as he answers, "No, your ladyship. It was done by a single demon." The Nightborn share a shocked look as whispers spread throughout the medical center, but they only grow worse when the lampirid continues, "A blood lycan." Just seconds later, a wave of blood washes into the room, before forming the shape of a humanoid creature. The blood then fades to reveal a blood lycan as the woman adorned fully in blood metal armor with long mostly red hair with streaks of black tied back in a ponytail asks, "What did you just say? A blood lycan? Describe the blood lycan to me now." Crystal Varter del Argus blood lycan level 1401. Every demon in the room, including the vampire nobles, immediately take a knee without saying a word with the sole exception of Silger, who begins to tremble ever so slightly despite him answering without a single shake to his words, "I never saw the blood lycan myself, but from the descriptions I heard, it was a female blood lycan child who never left her bipedal beast form. And she was wearing a full set of blood metal armor with blood runes." Crystal's eyes flare slightly with particles of blood and a bright red light before she narrows them and looks down as she mutters, "A runaway? But there should only be a dozen blood lycan children at a level strong enough to fight a battalion." The blood lycan continues muttering to herself for a few seconds while ignoring all of the demons in the room, only to eventually look up and ask, "Was there any other information about the child?" Silger, who has managed to calm down thanks to the blood lycan's muttering, answers clearly, "No, Countess Varter. I was sent back to the base before the battalion was eliminated, so all I know is that the blood lycan had spread various different plagues through our numbers, and let them fester and continuously renew over a few days' time until she began attacking personally, taking out team after team while escaping before any reinforcements could arrive. The only reason I know the battalion was eliminated was due to my bond with them being severed." Crystal grimaces at the news before waving her hand and dismissing the cosmic lampirid and then turning into blood a moment later to move through the base. His Majesty won't be very happy about one of the pack turning on the demon's forces, even if they're simply having a tantrum. But he will absolutely be livid with whoever managed to let a child sneak onto Earth in the first place. The woman continues rushing through the base for several seconds before ending up at the war chamber of the base, where she finds several nobles lined up, some of whom are more powerful than her in terms of level despite not being clan demons. But Crystal knows the only reason she was sent to Earth and given command was because the higher-leveled blood lycans took too much reality energy for them to spare just yet, and they needed representatives of the clan on Earth. Both to represent the clan itself and to create blood metal and help build the bases. Listen up, she declares, making all of the marquises and marchionesses in the room turn to look at her. A blood lycan child is currently attacking our forces, and has destroyed an entire battalion on her own. With the power vested in me by His Majesty and the Argus branch of the blood lycan clan, I hereby order the Legion to search for and capture the child without causing her any harm. Her eyes then narrow as she sees the shocked looks on the various nobles' faces. If any permanent harm should come to the child, then you will be hearing from my father himself. Understood, all of the nobles declare, following which Crystal leaves the room again to appear in her own chambers with a sigh. Just which of those children would come to Earth to have a damn tantrum right now? She can't help but frown at the thought as she walks over to her bed and sits down on it while leaning with her elbows on her knees. Then she sighs again and lies back on the bed. At least Her Highness, the first princess, is back on Tartarus and already proving just how worthy she is of her bloodline. I just wish the others of her generation could be the same. The next morning, something that I'm still getting used to saying again after spending several months on Tartarus where the day and nights are swapped, finds me quickly going to take a bath with one of the baths I may or may not have taken from Tartarus and stuffed in my pockets. Which is rather odd to think about, considering the whole thing of me carrying around a bath with me in my pocket. But worth it, considering how lovely those baths are. Although it's awkward taking a bath outside, seeing as I don't exactly have anywhere to put the thing indoors. Even if the bath itself is indoors and has walls and a ceiling with a lock on the door, it's still off-putting to know that someone might try knocking on the door if they found this place in the middle of the mountains while I'm bathing. Then again, I know some guardians straight up bathe in rivers and lakes out here, just for the fun of it. So having an actual building is good enough for me. Most guardians don't bathe outside here though, simply because it's too cold. Only those with a heat-related magic that can heat up the water and area around the water tend to do that. Coincidentally, those people also happen to often be more bold. In general. I can't say whether it's weird one way or the other, Tar comments as I step out of the bath and put the small building back in my pocket. Right. Almost forgot that you don't have a physical body, so you probably haven't ever actually taken a bath. Well, I've taken some with you before, Tar says, causing me pause for a moment before I start walking towards the front lines. Don't say that anywhere near Leonidas, Gramps, or Amelia. I'm pretty sure they'd skin you alive for that. Tar doesn't say anything in response, but I notice a hint of fear creeping through our bond, despite it that has me smirking. Alan probably would as well. He still doesn't say anything, so I just continue walking through the woods and the mountains while quietly enjoying the snow falling down around me. Because I've always been partial towards the snow. It's just beautiful, and I love the cold. Although I can't really feel much cold anymore, considering how tough my body has gotten over my time as a guardian. How long do you think it'll take for the demon army to realize it's you hunting down their forces? Tar asks as he appears and sits on my shoulder, pretty much just perching himself like a cat on the pauldron there. I glance at him before looking forward again. I think a month is a good amount of time to give them. Maybe 2. I'll probably be able to destroy at least a few battalions by the time they realize it's me attacking them. After all, Gramps never actually announced that I was going to Earth, nor did he say that I was going to be fighting against the demons. Which makes sense considering that it would demoralize the troops if they knew they'd be fighting to the death with me while not actually being allowed to kill me themselves. Not that any of them except the nobles even know what I look like. Although if they knew a blood lycan princess was going around fighting them, and saw a blood lycan girl attacking them, I doubt it would be hard to reach the right conclusion. They'd have to be stupid to not realize it was you at that point, Tar says, sounding vaguely amused. Yep. And demons aren't okay, the higher class demons aren't stupid. I blink at that thought. Most of the higher class demons aren't. Tar sends me an amused glance as he comments, "Took you 3 tries?" Shut up, I stayed out loud without deigning to look at the furball covered in snow. The Tanuki actually laughs at that, making me purse my lips. But I still don't look at him as I walk through the snow. At some point during my walk, I begin to hear signs of a large force a few dozen kilometers to the northeast of me. So I change my direction to head there. But after I make it about halfway there, I hear signs of another large force near them, along with some signs of what sound like the start of a battle. Which means that other guardians are already attacking that battalion. Unfortunate. I change my direction again to head deeper into demon territory in search of a battalion that is further away from the front lines and not engaged in combat. Preferably one like the first one I took down, that was simply on the move towards the front lines from their base. You realize that sooner or later, they'll start putting a noble in each of the battalions, right? Tar points out, making me frown a little. Yeah, I know that. But I'll keep milking these battalions for EXP for as long as I can before that. Then I can go to the front lines themselves, where the nobles and Class B guardians are fighting with the main forces, and continue my hunt there. I might actually be able to help a bit as well with Blood Plague, since I can target just the demons. Too bad it won't do much against the class versus though. Wouldn't be surprised if they were somehow immune to the plagues altogether actually. Simply due to being too powerful. After all, there is a vast gap in power between Class 4 and Class V. To the point that Class IVs only get 5 free points to distribute each level, while Class Versus get 10. Something about the power of the contractor growing exponentially due to their reality and body being fully merged. But it should help a lot against everything else. On that note, I glance at my army identification paper to find the number of demons I've slain currently standing at a little over 800, with a fourth of those being Class 4 and the rest Class 3. Which is already far more than my actual quota. Not that I actually care about that rather tiny quota. I look around for a moment before speeding up in my run. Let's see where the next battalion might be. Zephyr shouts, "The warden is here." And almost immediately, every last demon in his battalion of griffins, wyverns, and drakes starts roaring their defiance at the sight of the blood-leaking child as she slowly walks towards the battalion standing at 800 demons. Meanwhile, all around them blood can be seen falling down from dark rain clouds filled with an evil crimson glow, blocking out any sun that would otherwise mark the day. But the roars don't last long before the plague spread by the Warden of the Red Plague, an unofficial title created by the demons who had survived their battalions being assaulted by the blood-leaking gave the dangerous girl, begins to ravage their bodies at a much faster speed than it had when the girl first started slaughtering her fellow demons. The windstorm griffin narrows his eyes at her with a grimace at the sight of her level, uncaring about the blood raining down around him being blocked by a barrier of wind surrounding his body. Redacted, who/blidma/ly- can level 742. She's been terrorizing us for a month now, and we still don't even know her name. And her level, oh Demon King, her level, she was brand new to Class 4 at the start of this, right? His Fae nods its head from atop Zephyr's own large head in agreement as he answers in his mind, yes, she was. This advancement is downright terrifying. Zephyr watches with a mild amount of horror in his gaze as the girl suddenly sprints forwards, while lines of life energy suddenly stretch out from every demon within 30 meters of her straight towards the girl. And she doesn't stop there, tearing straight into the demons with abandon, bubbles of blood forming and popping on dozens of demons' skins around her, blades of metallicized blood forming and launching at all of the demons, and a black, red, and blue electricity running across her skin with some steam along with it. After watching the warden tear through his demons without much struggle for several seconds, Zephyr finally snaps out of his daze and lets out a loud screech while rearing back on his hind lion legs, letting his 2 large wings flap behind him as the screech echoes out of his eagle head. Then he sends dozens of blades of wind magic towards the girl who is nearly 200 levels below him. But to his surprise, the girl just performs a backflip, ignoring the blades, to instead go after other demons of Zephyr's battalion. She's ignoring me? Why? Zephyr decides to take that as an invitation and rushes straight through the air, his wings folding up against his body to let him move faster through the air towards her. But when he gets close to the girl, she just jumps straight into the air and turns to face him, a wolfish grin on her wolf head. One that sends a chill down his spine. Despite her clear smug arrogance, she doesn't attack him like he was expecting, instead rushing to kill off more of his demons. "Face me, blood lycan," he shouts, his voice resonating over the battlefield of several hundred sickened demons versus one blood lycan. And once again, the blood lycan surprises him by ignoring him. What happened to her curse of pride? Is she somehow ignoring it? The two continue their game as the girl rushes around killing hundreds of demons in his army, starting with the class 3s, and moving on to the class IVs. And it isn't until over half of Zephyr's battalion is already wiped out that he realizes through the blind rage his wrath had begun driving him into that the girl is growing stronger with each kill. That's why. But the moment he slows down and considers fleeing to head back to the base instead, the girl changes directions and rushes straight to him with her fist raised. Zephyr lets out a loud screech when the fist directly hits his wing that he brings up to defend himself, sending him falling to the ground. "I need to escape." Before Zephyr can even get back up from the ground though, the dust and blood in the air clears up enough for him to see the girl grinning widely while falling through the air towards him, her glowing crimson eyes illuminating the blood as a terrifying power builds up within her, making Zephyr realize that it's too late. Then Blood of Ruin comes for the battlefield. A news station in the capital city of the Terran Republic. Days after the death of the battalion. Chloe Martinez smiles widely at the camera pointed at her as she exclaims, "And news has just come to us that the Great Scarlet Wolf, the apex predator of the Guardian world and the newly dubbed Warden of the Red Plague has destroyed a 4th battalion in just a month." This is extraordinary news as this one Class 4 Guardian is making more progress towards the progression of the war than any of the class versus on the front lines except the Knights. But Chloe, don't you think this is to be expected from the Guardian who's managed to reach Class 4 before even turning 20 years old? Chloe's co-host and brother, Jackson Martinez says with a wide smile of his own as he sits across a table from her. He, unlike his long-haired sister, has short black hair elegantly combed to one side and is wearing a black suit just like his sister. Not to mention the White Knight of Humanity's daughter. "I guess you're right there, Jack," Chloe answers with a smile and a shrug, using her brother's nickname. Ever since the Warden made it back from her training, she has been fighting directly on the front lines of the war. Fighting so long that the demons themselves dubbed her the Warden of the Red Plague thanks to her usage of a type of corruption magic to spread plagues through the battalions of demons in order to weaken them. But why do you think they call her the Warden? Why not Bringer of the Red Plague or something like that? Jackson asks while tilting his head, acting as if he doesn't already know. "I believe it's because she's acting as a warden, keeping the demons locked away on their side of the front lines and away from our territory," Chloe answers with the pre-written script. "Oh, I think that fits her rather well," Jackson says with a wide smile. Even if she has never been particularly known for being the most social of guardians, the Warden has always loved going out and defending the world against demons, hasn't she? Probably not. I think she just likes fighting. Chloe doesn't speak her thoughts out loud and instead answers, "Of course. Who else would keep those disgusting demons in check while the main forces push them back?" But Jackson starts before hesitating as planned, "Have you heard the rumors?" Chloe tilts her head this time and asks, "What rumors?" "Rumors that the Warden may not be what she seems," Jackson says in a whispered voice. "Oh, you mean that rumor," Chloe plays along while shaking her head. "The one where some people are beginning to wonder if the Warden is entirely human herself." "Right," Jackson says while pointing at his sister. "I'm particularly fond of the rumor of her being some amalgamation of the White Knight's genes and a void creature." "Why not a demon?" Chloe asks with a frown, but her brother just shakes his head and says, "That's not possible. There have been records of a human and a demon trying to have children before, and each and every time the child died or became a full-blooded demon soon after childbirth. Some of them even before they were fully born." "Ah, right," Chloe says with a look of understanding on her face. "So what's your favorite rumor?" Jackson asks while leaning forwards in his chair as if conspiring against something. Chloe purses her lips before looking back behind her chair for a moment and then back at her brother. "Well, I know this rumor is completely impossible, but I personally like the rumor that she is the daughter of the White Knight of Humanity and a blood lycan." Her brother gasps at that, making his sister quickly bring her hands up to say, it's not a very founded rumor. Just one that people made jokingly online because she resembles a blood lycan with her wolf-like features. She lowers her hands again. I just really like the whole star-crossed lovers thing that it would mean between the White Knight and a demon. It's just, she pauses as she gets a dreamy look in her eye, one that isn't actually planned by the production as she truly feels this way, romantic. Don't you think? Jackson smirks slightly and says, yeah, but it could never come true. And if it did, the White Knight would draw a ton of ire from the people. You don't think the warden would get any hatred? Chloe asks with a faint look of feigned surprise as she tilts her head. Her brother shakes his head and says, probably not. She's fighting on the front lines against the demons after all, and helping quite a bit at that. It's not her fault who she was born to. Scarlet. I stare blankly at the TV screen as the two news reporters continue talking, but I don't really pay much attention to what they're actually saying. Not after hearing them say that even if I was exposed, the humans would probably direct their anger towards Amelia instead of me. That's actually not all that surprising, Tar says from his place in my lap. I look down at him from my place seated on the couch before he explains, well, it's what they've already said. You've made your position on Earth's side of the war clear for all to see, even if the demons are too stuck in their ways to realize it. So sure, there will probably be a lot of people who are afraid of you if you get exposed, the majority probably won't be. And even amongst those afraid of you, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them still consider you a weapon that they're pointing towards the demons. Oh. Right. I'd basically be a clan demon turned traitor, helping the humans with their sorely lacking manpower. Yeah, Tar says with a nod of his head before lying his head back down on my legs. Amelia won't be getting off that easily though. True. But she probably won't care. Tar hums in agreement. I'm pretty sure Amelia doesn't care about her public image at all. It's too bad she can't just erase that memory from everyone's minds though. If it were ever revealed, that is. She mentioned something to you about it before, right? Tar asks as the news reporters move on to talking about Blake, who is apparently fighting on the front lines at the main battlefield. Yeah. She said that it would be too much information to remove from too many people's minds. That she doesn't have the mana for it, and even if she did, she would end up turning a sizable chunk of the world's humans into walking vegetables by doing it. How did she wipe out all of the other information on her that she did before? Tar asks while raising his head to look at me again. Well, apparently she was unconscious for nearly a year after that. On and off, of course. With her waking up and doing the removal process bit by bit with each tiny detail about her one at a time, before going back unconscious. But she can't do that with one large and very prominent piece of information that will be at the forefront of everyone's minds. A rather large restriction on that skill, but I guess it's still just a skill. And all skills have to have their limits. Even a title-bearing mythic skill like Erase. I think there's also a level limit on the skill. That she can't erase anything or anyone who is a higher level than her at all, and the higher level the being is she's trying to erase or erase something about, the more mana it costs to do it. It's the skill she got for her White Knight of Humanity title, right? Tar asks, making me glance at him with a raised brow. I thought you already knew all this. He stares at me for a few seconds, before slowly lying down to take a nap. You forgot, didn't you? He doesn't answer. I snort while shaking my head. It is the skill she got from that title, you're correct. And it's an incredibly powerful skill. The ability to erase anything from existence for an incredibly large amount of mana, as long as it's a lower level than you. Including a concept itself, although it would only be for a few meters cubed in volume. Oh, right, couldn't she erase something like gravity entirely in a small amount of space, as if that concept didn't exist in the first place? Tar asks, acting like he hadn't forgotten. Yeah. But it costs more mana than she has to erase someone who's even just 200 levels below her, so she doesn't use that particular skill often. Might actually cost more than she has to erase someone who is 300 levels beneath her. I lean back against the couch in the middle of the living area of my rather small suite of only a few rooms at the base. Something that's supposed to be a privilege for someone at my class, but just feels small. Probably because I kind of got a tad used to the princess treatment on Tartarus in terms of rooms and stuff. Not to mention that it wasn't much different on Earth before that, considering my suite at the university. Anyways, that news station actually made me relax a little bit. Before I can really get comfortable though, I immediately sit straight again and pull out my terminal. I forgot to check. How are the online forums responding to this news? Are you sure you want to do that? You do remember the last couple times you checked online chats, right? Tar asks, sounding slightly amused. This is different. This is about how they'd act if I was exposed. Shadowwalker number 11, the warden? A blood lycan? Pfft, that's hilarious. Pirate Soul _73 really? A blood lycan? That's just impossible. Why would a high and mighty blood lycan deign to lower themselves to mate with a human, even if it's one of the knights? It's just not possible. No use talking about it. Dreamweaver 19, yeah. Alpha Wolf 987, I think it would be kinda cool to have a clan demon on our side of the war though, don't you guys? Mystical Muser, a clan demon on our side, is that even possible? Tech Ninja _42, I know I wouldn't be upset if she was a blood lycan. At least, not at Scarlet. She's too cute to be upset with. Alpha Wolf 987 agreed. Silver Surfer 66 really, dude? Shadowwalker number 11, well, if it were actually possible, then I guess it's not Scarlet's fault who she was born to. White would be a traitor though. Dreamweaver 19, oh, without a doubt. But there's nothing anyone can say or do about her. She doesn't care about the public's opinion towards her. Pirate Soul _73, I still say it's impossible. Tech Ninja _42, come on, dude, we're just speaking theoretical here. No need to get your hair in a knot. Tech Ninja _42, but yeah, the White Knight of Humanity wouldn't be much of a savior of humans if she was having a kid with a clan demon. Shadowwalker number 11, she can't call herself a Knight of Humanity if she bangs a blood lycan. Period. I close out of the chat discussing the news station before leaning back against the couch again. Huh. They really are just pushing the blame off onto Amelia. Well, technically you have no responsibility in this, Tar comments, making a rather good point. I'm just kinda surprised as all. Although what would happen if they knew I was the granddaughter of the Demon King? Tar looks up at me again and answers, if they hear how you convinced the Demon King to stop attacking civilians, then they will probably accept you. Most of them, at least. I blink at that before remembering that that had happened. Right. They'll see that I've used my position for the betterment of humanity. Or at least, the logical people will. And not everyone is logical. True, Tar mutters as he lies his head back down and goes to sleep, judging by the feeling our bond sends me. I pet the little guy, my hand stroking his back, while thoughts of what could happen in the future fill my mind. But after several seconds of that, I let out a sigh. No use worrying about the future. I probably won't be able to attack any more battalions after this last one, so I should shift my focus to the main battlefield. And Rain of Blood should help with that a lot. A skill that basically combines with Blood Plague by pouring down a bunch of plagues from the sky that I can control who gets infected by them. Something I got as an inherent legendary skill at level 700. I smile as I remember getting that skill. Then I frown at the thought of how it was the only damned inherent skill I've gotten since starting this hunt. Completely stupid, but I guess that's what I get for getting so many achievements. And since my achievements influence my inherent skill's direction, it ended up being related to plagues. At this point, I really wouldn't be surprised if I ended up with a plague-related title sometime in the distant future. Come to think of it, I did get that unofficial Warden of the Red Plague title. I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up getting that as an official title in the distant future, since from what Gramps said, the exact name of a title is influenced by how people view the one who is getting the title. Actually, the same with the title-bearing mythic skill for the predator line of skills, since people already call me the apex predator. Interesting thought. I wonder how Gramps would feel if I got a title called the apex predator. Sounds cool to me. I'd be very happy with a title like that. Warden of the Red Plague is cool too though. Although I never particularly cared much about plagues in games, and it's not exactly a happy thing to be thought of alongside, but considering that I use blood magic in the first place, not to mention that I go around tearing things to shreds with my claws. So you finally admitted to being a ouch. Tar shuts up with a quiet and exaggerated ouch when I bop him on the head with my hand. I'm a perfectly reasonable and elegant lady, thank you very much. Sure you are, Tar comments, but doesn't say anything else when I pause in my petting. And after a few seconds of silence, I continue petting him again. I stare up at the ceiling for a bit, just thinking about the future of the war until I hear a loud explosion ringing out in the far distance, from the direction of the main battlefield. Which is close enough for me to hear from here if I raise the sensitivity of my ears. Come to think of it. My eyes narrow as a skill that I haven't really used much, despite it being an epic rarity skill comes to mind. Actually, Blood Swarm could be very useful in a war setting. In a large battlefield. You're finally gonna put that skill to use? Tar asks, and I nod my head after seeing him raises his own to look at me. Summoning a swarm of blood homunculi would be helpful in fighting the weakling demons in the main battlefield. And I can rain down plagues through both Rain of Blood and Blood Plague to spread my plagues throughout the entire main battlefield. Which would be a large boon for the humans, even if they'll have Class B demons there that will likely try to stop it, not to mention heal the plagues. But aside from their usage in the main battlefield, Tar waits a moment before asking, what? I look down at him with a grin. The main battlefield will serve as a rather nice place to level up those skills, with all of those demons there to hunt. He groans. Blake is pissed the hell off as he sends pillar after pillar of black flames straight at the masses of demons down in the snowy plains below him and the rest of the spellcasters of the human army. He's pissed because not only did his game friend and Hunter 11 vanish several months back, leaving him to fend for himself again in the game and making him struggle to bring back the guild they had made to power after their loss, but Scarlet Esker has already eclipsed him in level and class in less than a year of his knowing her. And to make matters worse for him, the girl in question vanished for several months only to reappear again. He doesn't want to admit it, but he missed her over the time she's been gone. Even if he knows he doesn't even have the slightest chance of being with her in a romantic setting, not only because of her own lack of interest, but because she isn't even human. And her father and grandfather are terrifying enough. Blake shivers at the thought of going out with the granddaughter of the Demon King. But despite that, he still can't help but miss her. Love does some strange things, his Fae mutters, but he ignores them to instead continue blasting balls of black hellfire straight at the demons down below, killing dozens at a time despite those demons being the weaker Class 2 demons. And the demons in question let out hoarse screams filled with horror and pain from the soul-burning hellfire killing them. Son, Blake hears his father's voice, but he refuses to turn around and look at him. Because he knows exactly what he's going to say. If you want to catch up to her in strength, you're going to have to do better than hunting mere Class 2 demons. And the first thing he sees has his lips parting in surprise. Out of nowhere, blood started to rain down over a corner of the battlefield without his noticing. And that blood is only continuing to spread as Blake watches it through to the rest of the battlefield, blocking out the sun in the process. Then Blake hears whispers echoing from the demon's side of the battlefield. The Warden. She's here. Everyone prepare your cures. Get ready to use your potions. Healers. Blake feels his heart almost stopping in his chest as he finally turns his gaze to the edge of the large plain of snow down beneath them, snow that is currently being dyed red with the blood rain, to see the girl he has not been able to get out of his mind for months now walking up to the battlefield with her arms and legs shapeshifted into that of a werewolf with silky black fur streaked with crimson. And he can't help but feel a little surprised at the sight of her armor. Because while he knows that the media hasn't so much as been able to get a single recording of her battles since she arrived, likely due to White's interference to let her go all out, he didn't realize she had gotten entirely new armor. And that new armor, it looks really nice on her. Blake shakes his head to get rid of the blush on his cheeks before looking at his father, only to find the man looking at the girl with a fire in his eyes as well. Except that the fire in his eyes is similar to the one his father gets towards Scarlett's mother, but without the love and lust part of it, only the desire to battle part. He can't be. Is he really thinking of her as a possible rival for himself now? Well, she's only 20 years old and should be halfway through class 4 already, judging by her mana level, his fake comments, making Blake grimace as he turns to look at the girl again. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up stronger than the Knights of Humanity within the next couple decades. Blake's grimace grows more severe at that, but he takes a deep breath and glances at all of the guardians he can see along with the demons they were fighting, only to find everyone within sight of her having stopped moving to watch the girl. And both sides show surprise at her appearance. The humans likely due to her new outfit, just like Blake, and the demons because Blake doesn't know why the demons are surprised. Maybe she hasn't shown them her human form yet, his face suggests, making his eyes widen slightly. Possibly. He listens to some of the conversations held by the demons before realizing that his face suggestion is the truth. She had never shown her face to the demons before during the war. Not in this form. Blake turns his attention back to Scarlet right when she raises a hand and grins, making red particles begin sparkling very faintly around everyone as she no doubt spreads her plagues along with the blood rain. She really has become a monster on the battlefield, hasn't she? Scarlet. Well, this is fun. I can't help but grin as I spread 12 different plagues through the demon army with both of my skills, which, in turn, gives me at least a little bit of participation in each and every demon kill on the battlefield. Meanwhile, my blood rain makes the terrain harder for everyone but me to move in as I quickly rush through the demons and begin my slaughter. It's too bad I can't use Blood of Ruin here without attacking the humans too, but at the very least life absorption is doing its job, draining dozens upon dozens of demons of life energy all at once. To the point that I'm pretty sure I can completely let loose without a care in the world about my own health out here. Because my own regeneration in addition to life absorption will keep me from staying hurt, and my armor is made so that even if the entire thing is destroyed, I'll still be clothed with the silken under armor beneath it. A wild feeling of glee enters my mind as I let loose, even if I'm not in my fully transformed beast form and only have my arms and legs shapeshifted. This is going to be fun. Over time I almost lose myself in the massacre, in the hunt. But I manage to maintain myself every time thanks to Tar. The main battlefield is filled with millions upon millions of demons, with nearly a quarter of that in guardians. And while the guardians are mostly stationed up on the mountains and cliffs overseeing these plains, the demons are spread out everywhere. So I just kill demons back to back, ignoring all of the wounds I get from these lowly class 1 and 2 demons as I tear them limb from limb, the vast majority of them not even having the sapience to understand what's happening as they toss themselves at me like fodder. But because they're such low-leveled demons, I don't bother checking my system messages since I'm not expecting any EXP from them. That is until I get a strange system message that forces its way through. For killing 10,000 demons back to back, you are awarded with 1/10 of a level's worth of EXP. I pause in my killing, leaving me standing still in the middle of a pack of hounds that I completely ignore as half of them try to bite my arms and legs with no success. Then after the message finally registers in my mind, I simply snap my finger, boiling the blood of the hounds in an instant and completely ridding them of blood before I continue chasing after more demons. This explains how Gramps got so strong. Guess the system really does encourage massacres. It's not a good way of doing things, Tar says as I continue killing demons. Your grandfather set laws in place to disallow slaughter outside of war, so the demons' nobles on Tartarus aren't allowed to simply go around slaughtering every demon they see for the levels it could give them. And generally the system does at least limit it to only a couple battlefields with a time limit of generally half a day spread across the kills. So there are limits at least. Yeah. But at least this way I'll be getting progress even from killing the small fry here. With that thought in mind, I raise on hand in the air and create 24 blades of blood that I send through the demons before summoning more blades and launching them as well. Then I repeat this while rushing through and slaughtering more demons, tearing them apart with my bare hands. Literally, in some cases where I literally tear them in two. Those cases also make me really happy that I use blood magic, since it's very easy to clean myself up of their blood. Especially when I can just use their own blood to attack the other demons around me. Too bad I can't use my metallicized blood skill here, since that's a blood lycan only skill that would expose me in an instant to the humans. A pity. Also, looking around this battlefield, most of the class 3 and 4 demons are all closer to the very front of the battle at the mountains themselves, clashing with the class 3 and 4 guardians over there. Meanwhile, the few dozen noble demons here are all flying around the battlefield with abandon while locked in combat with some class B guardians. And of the demons here, only those nobles actually recognize me as the princess. Which also kind of gave their opponents an opportunity to strike during their shock. But they're all too busy to even consider going over to try kidnapping me, so yay for that. Sometimes I really question your sanity, Tar comments, making me scowl as I continue slaughtering demons like ants in an ant hill. That is the exact reason why I question your sanity. You just thought yay while going around ripping demons limb from limb and literally popping some of them like bubbles as you spread a dozen plagues across an army of millions of demons. What part of that is sane? I tilt my head. Every part of it. He snorts. No, seriously. I am perfectly sane. For a blood lycan, but not really for a human, Tar points out, making me freeze in place as some of the demons around me try and fail to do any damage to me again. But my thoughts are too focused on Tar's words. For a blood lycan, not a human. I blink at that thought. That's That actually doesn't bother me much, if even at all. I mean, you've said from the start that you didn't really care if you lost your humanity, Tar says from the in-between. Why would that change now? Well, you're right about that. But I also didn't think that my thinking was all that different from a human's. Really? Tar asks, sounding perhaps a bit too incredulous there. Your thoughts have never been particularly normal amongst humans. If you say so. I continue slaughtering demons without a care in the world, occasionally getting more system messages about the EXP until I eventually get a level up notification. Congrats, you have leveled up to level 743. 5 free points have been awarded to you and your stats have been updated. Nice. My killing spree is halted when I sense a powerful force approaching from the east, making me turn my head only for 5 more powerful forces to join the first. And what I find is the sight of 6 nobles all flying straight from the direction of the demon's closest base to me. Well, shit. Looks like my hunt might be taking a turn. That thought also goes on halt when I feel another powerful force approaching from the west, where the human's base is. And when I turn to look this time, I find a very unexpected ally arriving to help me. My ally makes it here before the nobles do, slamming his fist on the ground and sending a large wave of black flames straight across the ground to incinerate every last demon here while also avoiding hurting me. Then he stands up and gives me a stern look mixed with battle lust. A look that resembles, but is still different from the one the Lord of Hellfire always gives me. Just a lot less happy meathead and more stoic and broody at the same time. Red turns his gaze from me to look at the nobles who are all slowing down to fly directly above the large cleared-out area around us before he asks, so who would like to be my sparring partner for the night? All while my blood rain is still falling down around us. The fighting for as far as the eye can see around us completely halts to a standstill with the exception of the class versus while the nobles land in the clearing around me, splashing a little in the blood puddling up on the ground from my blood rain since the hellfire burned all of the blood that had been there before from the slaughter. But before anyone can say anything, the noble in front of the others snaps her fingers, sending a wave of blood out from her that quickly forms a giant wall of blood metal all around us. I keep a wary eye on the blood lycan whose gaze hasn't left me since the moment she first arrived. Not even when Red showed up. Another noble next to her, a siren according to identify, suddenly opens her mouth to reveal razor-sharp teeth, something that looks incredibly off-putting on what otherwise looks like a beautiful human woman with pointed ears, white pupils, and unnaturally blue irises as she lets out a short chirping sound. Then I hear a ringing sound that gives me a brief headache, following which a dome of pure sound waves forms all around us, blocking anything said in this dome from getting out to those outside. A staring contest ensues for several seconds, during which I take the time to study the other noble demons of the group. Of them, there's the siren and the blood lycan, but there's also a dragonoid with 2 large red wings, a draconic head, and red scales across his body, a wraith who is completely cloaked in shadows with the only visible feature being their glowing green eyes, some sort of spider demon called a Red Death who is standing in their humanoid form with 8 black spider legs each tipped with sharp claws, and a red liquid coating the claws with 2 pitch black eyes, making it impossible to know where she is looking, and a vampire. None of whom, with the exception of the blood lycan, are above level 1300. Red apparently doesn't care much for the silence as he breaks it with a blunt, "So when do you want to battle?" I can't help but send him an incredulous look, briefly wondering if that's all he thinks about. But then again, he's helping me here, so it's fine. He should be able to take them all on despite them being demons. Which is also probably why the nobles haven't moved an inch towards me yet. The man should be in the early 1800s, I believe. Meanwhile, the highest level of this group is the blood lycan, who is only level 1400 or so from what I can tell from her mana level. But since she's a blood lycan, I can't identify her. And while a blood lycan is far superior to a human, and she likely has predator at a high rarity, she will most likely only be as strong as a level 1550 human, judging by the mana level. Maybe up to a level 1600. Which is still a good bit weaker than he is. "All we want is the princess, and we will leave this battlefield afterwards," the blood lycan says with a scowl towards the Red Knight of Humanity. "This does not concern you, knight." I can't help but raise a brow at that. The other noble demons here are all between level 1200 and level 1300, so they won't put up much of a fight against him either. Although I have heard that Red likes to draw out battles to see everything the opponents can do. Which is another thing he has in common with the Lord of Hellfire, who from what I heard is known throughout Tartarus for taking on any challenger, and if they can impress him he'll take them in as a student to teach. If not, he just burns them alive. But mostly he just wants to find talent and good people he can foster so that he can battle them himself someday. A true battle junkie right there. But I really can't tell what is giving her confidence to talk to Red like that. Is it just demon arrogance? She is a blood lycan. Could be her pride sin talking. Oh? You go trying to kidnap my rival's daughter right in front of me, the girl who also happens to buy my son's crush. I blink at that and expect me to stand here doing nothing? Your pride truly knows no bounds, blood lycan, Red says with a cold yet somehow still excited look on his face. Wait a second, what's this about a crush? Then we'll have to take things into our own hands, the blood lycan says, still scowling and seemingly looking down her nose ever so slightly at the Red Knight despite the level difference. And no human could ever be worthy of her highness, much less a knight's whelp. No, seriously. What's this about a crush? Tar chuckles in my head before saying, I think you have more important things to worry about. I blink at that, only to nod my head. You're right. Guess it doesn't really matter anyways. I have no interest in romance. I think I pity that boy, Tar mutters, making my eyes narrow before he goes silent. More grain, send Lunara and her highness away from the main battlefield, the blood lycan states, a cold look in her eyes as she pulls out some sort of potion from her pocket. A potion that is absolutely overflowing with mana and pure power. More grain? The wraith? And Lunara was the Red Death Spider Lady. I begin moving backwards when I see some sort of shadow portal opening in front of me, but I'm too late and it envelopes me entirely before I can do anything about it. And after just a few seconds, I find myself appearing in the mountains what sounds like several dozen kilometers away from the main battlefield. But I don't appear alone, as the Red Death walks through the portal after me, leaving me face to face with a noble demon. The portal of shadows vanishes the moment she steps through, following which the two of us stand in silence just staring at each other. And during this silence, I take the time to identify her again. Lunara Val Lunid Red Death level 1201. At least she's the weakest of the 6 noble demons. The spider lady gives me the formal bow that I got used to seeing from nobles during my time on Tartarus as she says, "It's a pleasure, your highness." Then she stands up straight and narrows her eyes slightly. "Please either come with me or leave the front lines of the war." I can't help but raise a brow at that as I point out, "You do remember that my grandfather told me I could do whatever I pleased, right?" Although I don't actually know if she knows this or not. The Red Death just nods her head once and answers with a simple, "Yes, I do. But he also said we're allowed to force you to leave the battlefield should you prove a threat to the war effort." Of course he did. Then there's no chance you'll just let me go? I ask before activating my beast form the moment she shakes her head in denial of that question. "Then I'll have to put up a fight, now won't I?" You're not actually, Tar begins, but I stop him with a quick thought, I just need to delay her long enough for Red to get here. The Tanuki lets out a relieved sigh in my mind before he says, "Be careful that you don't cross her envy." Right. Because she might lose control and actually try to kill me if I do. Well, without wasting any time out of the 2 minutes remaining of my originally 5-minute long set of stacks from Bloodthirst, I begin using all of my skills at once on her. And almost immediately, the Spider Woman jumps back in surprise as all sorts of things begin to happen to and around her. Including blades of blood metal appearing in the air and flying towards her, my blood shadow separating from me, a line of life energy leaving her, tiny little red spots appearing on her skin from blood boil and the many plagues I dump on her, and chains of blood appearing to lock down her limbs. Chains that are quickly shattered without much effort on her part. Stupid weak skill. Remember. Class V, Tar comments, but I ignore him as I activate both Crimson Overdrive and Blood Sacrifice at the same time while sprinting straight towards her, tearing up the ground beneath my feet in the process. And halfway towards her, my blood rain starts to fall all around us as well. Despite her quick reaction to my blood chains, I can tell she's still incredibly surprised by my choice to attack her. Which I don't blame her for. A Class V is leagues above a Class 4 in terms of strength. Even a level 1000 would have extreme difficulty fighting against a level 1001, and that's assuming that would even be a possible fight for the level 1000 despite that. My claws quickly reach her, but despite me burning a lot of blood and using it as fuel for Crimson Overdrive, and despite all of the numerous stacks of Bloodthirst I have up right now, she manages to instinctively react to my attack by quite literally swatting me with one of her spider limbs, sending me flying straight through hundreds of trees until I slam into a mountainside with a cough of blood. But since it was only a brute force attack made half-heartedly on instinct, I managed to get back up with a grunt as the internal injuries brought by the attack begin to heal already. "Please forgive me, Your Highness," the Spider Lady quickly exclaims after appearing just meters away from me without showing any signs to have moved at all before she bows with a slightly panicked expression on her face. "Just, please leave the battlefield, Your Highness. I don't want to hurt you dash." My pride flares up, making me let out a snarl before I rush at her again only to pause right when she's about to instinctively attack me again, once again not expecting my strike. Then I have my blood shadow attack from behind as blades of blood rain down on her. Each of which, including the blood shadow, she sends flying with her spider limbs claws. But this time I manage to rush in myself and swipe my own blood metal claws straight into her shoulder. Only for my claws to ping off of her armor and not so much as scratch her beyond a very faint nick in her armor. "Shit," I mutter, my mind clearing from my sin of pride due to the sheer difference in our abilities. The Red Death shakes her head with a light sigh before saying, "Please, Your Highness. There has never once been a contractor below Class V who has even come close to defeating a noble. Not even a level 1000 demon who had challenged a level 1001 demon was anywhere near their level and stood no chance. Please just give up now and either leave this battlefield or come with me back home." A literal pain radiates from my chest and my head as I feel anger and embarrassment from this, my cheeks glowing with a bright red color that can't be seen thanks to my blood rain. But no matter what I do, I can't see there being any possible way for me to win this battle. Not only is she a noble, but she's 458 levels above me. Despite that understanding, a whispered voice echoes in the back of my mind. Pride. Pride. Win. Never lose. Pride. Wyan. I grab my head at the voice before narrowing my eyes on the Red Death, my eyes beginning to glow even brighter as I see the crimson light reflecting off of the blood rain falling all around us in the darkness of the night. Scarlet, I hear Tar's voice in between the other voices, but they quickly begin to drown him out. Until a loud explosion echoes from the battlefield with a massive blast of black flames that I can see from here, following which Red once more lands in between me and the noble, slamming his fist into the ground. But for some reason, the sight of this of Red's interruption only makes the voice grow louder. The Red Death looks away from me to show a look of terror directed towards Red as I try as hard as I can to ignore the voice, holding my head with both of my hands and covering my ears. But despite that, the voice continues echoing along with Red's voice. Looks like I made it just in time. I grimace and barely hold in a grunt of pain, only for Red to suddenly vanish for an instant before reappearing again where he was standing. And this time he's holding some sort of amulet that I had seen around the Red Death's neck while turning it one way and then another, as if examining it. Give that back, the Red Death shouts, a hint of panic and anger entering her voice, her eyes widening to show both emotions. Red just ignores her before smiling and glancing once at her, then at the amulet. Then he crushes it in the palm of his hand and says, "Oops." The Red Death's eyes suddenly take on a reddish hue in her otherwise pitch-black eyes as she hisses. "Oh, the little spider is upset?" Red says, seemingly completely unaware of my struggle over here. "I wasn't really able to play with the others before killing them because of you, so how about you make up for that?" Lunara's eyes widen, now beginning to take on more anger than panic. Probably because of the casual mention of him killing the other nobles and toying with them too. "Oh, I know," Red exclaims, a smile finally cresting his face before he raises a hand with his fingers held like he's about to snap them. "You're an envy demon, right? Let's see if I can't make you lose control." My eyes widen in shock. This man's even worse than blue. I don't think that's it. Tar's voice echoes in my mind in between the screaming voice that's only continuing to get louder. "It looks like he wants to help you by dash. Pry-eyed. He'll make up for your failure." Whatever Tar is saying gets completely blocked out by the voice as I let out a grunt and drop to my knees, my eyes flaring once more. Pride. I have to make up for this loss. I have to. The mountainside Scarlet is at. Noah Walker, the Red Knight of Humanity, can't help but grin when he sees both the girls in the clearing's eyes starting to flare. The first sign of them beginning to lose control to their sins. Now to put the cherry on top of this little dessert. "So what I've heard from your little dead pals, you're a rather big fan of the Lady of Devouring. What would you say if you knew I've met her before?" Noah asks with his arms crossed. "Oh, and your little princess has as well. I believe the Lady of Devouring even took a liking to her." "Noah, you're starting to cross the line again," his fae, one whose name is Japard, says with more than a little warning in his voice. "If you keep this up and the girl is really injured, or even worse, killed, you will end up pissing off White enough for her to actually try killing you." Noah snorts at that as he watches the Red Death's eyes begin slowly glowing with a brighter and brighter red color until he says one last thing. "I've heard the Lady of Devouring likes Scarlet so much that she's willing to return the Blue Knight of Humanity's emotions back to him. What do you say about that?" A loud screech echoes throughout the area as the Red Death's eyes being blazing red, and she loses her sanity while shouting, "Stay away from my lady." Then she transforms into her spider form consisting of a large arachnid spanning 10 meters in length with streaks of red running through her fur and glowing red eyes as the red poison dripping off of her massive claws begins to kill the grass and vegetation it touches in just a single instant. Noah then glances at Scarlet while the large spider rushes straight at him, only to find his beloved's daughter's eyes also flaring with a bright red light. One far brighter than her usual glowing red eyes. Perfect. They both lost it. He turns back to the large spider the exact moment that Scarlet jumps straight from where she was standing towards the massive spider that is charging towards him. But since the large demon was clearly planning on targeting him first before moving on to her, and she herself is far weaker than it wasn't expecting her attack. And now that she's not wearing any armor, the girl's claws actually manage to damage some of her fur and even draw a tiny scratch on the surface of her leg. Then the Red Death swipes one of her clawed legs straight at the hybrid girl, sending her flying several kilometers away into a mountainside, destroying all of the trees along the way. Good thing it was the mountains in the opposite direction of the battlefield. Noah nods his head, proud of his work and feeling more than a little smug right now before he begins walking towards the mountainside the girl was sent to. And right when the large spider sends a glob of red poison his way, he casually moves his hand in the way of it and devours the entire ball of poison with some black flames. The Red Death then continues to attack him over and over again as he walks, simply toying with the thing and even grinning while he does it until he makes it to the girl. And what he finds is her getting up from the ground despite being covered in injuries so bad that her bones are sticking out of her body and even her armor. Noah winces at that before turning to the Red Death again, deciding that he's played enough. I don't want White to actually kill me after all. Plus this girl is interesting. Would make a great sparring partner in the future. And this is why most people don't like you, Jeopard grumbles, only making Noah smile as he raises his hand towards the Red Death. But right when he's about to wipe out the thing with hellfire, White's daughter rushes past him despite her injuries and uses a skill that sends shivers down even his spine. Blood of ruin, Noah mutters while tilting his head and lowering his hand out of pure curiosity. Let's see how this plays out first. White is going to kill you, Jeopard says with absolute certainty. Yeah, I'll deal with it after this. It's too good a chance to miss seeing ruin myself. Gabriella Silva, otherwise known as the Purple Knight of Humanity, opens her eyes for the first time in days before slowly raising a hand to brush some of her purple hair over her shoulder. Then she blinks once. Twice. 3 times. Something big is happening. After a couple seconds, the 40-something-year-old looking woman once more blinks her pupilless and silurless purple eyes before finally raising her hand and making a pool of purple liquid appear in front of her. The liquid then takes the form of a viewing screen, showing the side of a snow-covered mountain as the Blood of Ruin skill activates with a badly injured Scarlet Esker only barely standing, her eyes glowing with a red light brighter than they should be. Meanwhile the Red Knight watches from the side while the Blood of Ruin skill forms, deciding to apparently continue blocking the attacks of the Red Death demon that has also lost control. Something very big. Gabriella's eyes suddenly begin glowing with an even brighter purple light right when the Blood of Ruin finally runs through, dealing real damage to the Red Death even if it doesn't amount to much more than flesh wounds. Then the girl collapses to the ground, somehow still conscious. Without waiting for the prophecy to begin, Gabriella presses buttons on her terminal, making it start live-streaming herself without showing the screen she has in front of her of the battle the moment she begins speaking the prophecy. The birth of the Savior is here. Welcome the apex predator and rejoice, for she shall lead the 2 worlds to peace, to unity, and to their next war against the threat to all, both in this universe and beyond. Rejoice, because she is the only hope. The princess of night and day. Of blood and null. Gabriella's eyes return to their usual brightness in the purple glow they give off. Before she glances at her terminal, finding millions of people already watching the livestream. Then she faces the screen again while ending the livestream, despite hundreds of thousands of people joining every second with tens of thousands of comments appearing in the chat debating on the prophecy that was just foretold. The woman puts her terminal back in sleep mode again as the Blood of Ruin left behind by the skill sweeps through the forest. But the Red Knight of Humanity simply ignores it as he grins at the Red Death and raises his hand. White is going to attack him soon. Gabriella watches for several seconds while the Red Knight burns the Red Death alive without risking the Demon Princess any longer, following which the Demon Princess's eyes start dulling in their radiance, her curse calming down. No longer can you hide, child, Gabriella whispers without taking her eyes off of the hybrid girl. Not anymore. Apex predator. Then she closes the screen, and her eyes along with them, returning once more to her meditative state. Scarlet. I blink in confusion after the fog lifts from my head, only to feel extreme pain all over that has me letting out a scream. But even that pain doesn't last long before I feel a warmth flooding my body, letting me open my eyes to find Red having apparently shoved a potion down my throat. "Wouldn't want you keeling over on me," he says with a nod. "I still want to fight you in the future. And White would kill me." That just leaves me even more confused. I stare at him for several long seconds, not really sure what exactly is happening. Then I blink again and turn to look at our surroundings, finding everything to either be burnt and still burning with a black flame, or covered in red ash signifying blood of ruin. "But when did I use that skill? You don't remember?" Tar asks, sounding slightly surprised. "You lost yourself to your curse of pride and began attacking the noble without any care for your own well-being." "Oh. And I'm guessing Red stepped in and killed it before it could kill me?" "He did," Tar says, sounding more than a little pissed off. "After taunting it and making it lose itself to its own curse of envy so that it would truly try to kill you." "Wait, he did what?" "Exactly what I said," Tar grumbles. "Out of his desire to see you grow stronger, he wanted to help you get some experience for this fight and maybe an achievement. And he probably succeeded because he truly had no desire to save you beyond a passing whim. That and you had no idea what was going on. This guy is insane." "Yes, that he is," Tar says, appearing in the air and glaring at the man who is merely admiring the carnage around us. I knew Red had no desire to help others, but for him to actually just toy with us like we're well toys. That's just sick. He seemed perfectly willing to let you die until his game finished, and that is something I will be telling Amelia about." Tar practically growls in anger. "At least I should have gotten something from this." Tar freezes for a moment at my words before I notice his eyes widening in shock. Then he slowly turns his head to meet my eyes directly and mutters, something might be a bit of an understatement. "Try. I would recommend you check your system messages where no one else can see you. Because this is different." "Another universal notification?" "Yeah," Tar says. "And this one won't be held back for long. You have no choice. The messages will play out on their own within the next 10 minutes even if you don't check them." "Oh. Wait, the redaction on my name won't hold up," Tar says rather grimly. "You might as well check your system messages now, little fiend," Red says, bringing my attention to him. "There's no escaping it now. White won't be able to block your name this time." The smugness in his voice makes me want to punch him. Not to mention that little pet name he just gave me, which isn't exactly complimenting, and the excitement I can see clearly in his eyes. I turn my glare away from him, simply because he is a knight. "Amelia?" I ask with some trepidation in my voice, but to my surprise, she doesn't answer. Although now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure she said she was going to the Arctic to back up Black. Which explains why she didn't help me out in this battle. So I take a deep breath and let my system messages flow. First comes the messages from before my fight with the noble, which don't really amount to much more than a bunch of demon-defeated messages with no actual EXP given to me. Meanwhile, the 10th of a level messages and the level up I had from them already forced themselves to play without my permission earlier. Then the messages for the battle with the noble arrive. Level 1201 Red Death defeated. An enormous EXP bonus is awarded for killing a creature over 400 levels above your level. A massive penalty has been taken from your earned EXP for barely assisting in killing the creature. 75 skill points are awarded for killing a creature 250 levels or more above you with or without help. 50 skill points are awarded for spreading plagues to millions of different beings all at once. 2 skill points are awarded for killing a Class V. Congrats, you have leveled up to level 743. 5 free points have been awarded to you and your stats have been updated. Congrats, you have leveled up to level 798. 5 free points have been awarded to you and your stats have been updated. Skilled Blood of Ruin has leveled up to level 16. Skilled Blood Regeneration has leveled up to level 21. Skilled Blood Nullification has leveled up to level 5. Skill Blood Swarm has leveled up to level 7. Skill Blood Swarm has leveled up to level 8. Skill Blood Empowerment has leveled up to level 13. Skill Pain Diffusion has leveled up to level 23. Skill Metallicized Blood Claws has leveled up to level 27. Skill Metallicized Blood has leveled up to level 17. And the moment those messages stop playing, the notifications I'm expecting come. System Notice. User has completed all of the necessary achievements in order to obtain a title-bearing mythic skill. The achievements they have completed include the following. Reach Class 3 while under 20 years old. Defeat a being 150 levels above you without any assistance. Have the Predator V skill. Defeat a being 250 levels above you with or without assistance. As this is a title-bearing mythic skill, you will be given the skill at no charge. My eyes widen as I feel a rush of power flood through my body, and at the same time, red and black light shines from every pore of my skin, illuminating the surroundings so brightly that I have to close my eyes. Then I hear a voice echoing in my head along with another notification. System anomaly recognized upon title assignment. Resources diverted towards determining source. Source confirmed. Anomaly's true name was interfered with by a system user known as the White Knight of Humanity. True name has now been returned to normal. Anomaly has been repaired. System resources returning to appropriate responsibilities. Yeah, this isn't good. Rejoice, user Scarlet Art Esker de R. Karen, for you have earned the mythic skill known as Apex Predator. And along with it, you have been assigned the title of the Apex Predator. Apex Predator. It grants the user a 100% boost in stats when fighting a creature at a higher level than themselves by at least 100 levels. It grants the user a 50% boost in stats when fighting a creature at a higher level than themselves by at least 10 levels. It grants the user a permanent 30% boost in stats no matter who they are fighting. These bonuses do not stack together with each other. All hail the Apex Predator. My jaw drops open in silent shock. Warning! This is a universal notification. Scarlet Art Esker de R. Karen has attained a new title-bearing mythic skill. Scarlet has now attained the title, the Apex Predator. May their achievement ring out throughout the known universe. I grimace at the mention of my full name. Well, the cat's out of the bag now. Yeah, Tar mutters, sounding grim. Meanwhile I just hear Red laughing his heart out as I open my eyes again to find him still standing in front of me. Okay, despite the fact that he technically helped me right now, he's a complete asshole. I scowl at him, only for the man to laugh even more at that before he calms down again and gives a light bow. Welcome to politics, Your Highness. My eyebrow twitches in irritation. Then he vanishes in a flurry of black flames. That guy is hard to get a read on. I turn my attention back to the battlefield dozens of kilometers away from here when I realize that it's actually gone silent. Probably due to me. The mere fact that I managed to silence a battlefield of hundreds of millions of people, both humans and demons, is a rather large feat in and of itself. I glance at my terminal, feeling apprehensive about checking any online chats or news stations before shaking my head and deciding to go ahead and check my status instead. Because it's a nicer place to look right now. Name, Scarlet Art Esker de R. Karen. Species, human/blood lycan hybrid. Magic, blood. Titles. The Apex Predator. Age, 20. Level, 798. SP, 182. Stats. Physical, 2374. Mental, 2373. Magical, 2373. Physical/level, 2. Mental/level, 1. Magical/level, 2. Free points, 0. Mana, 2 for 02 133/8,728,249.95. Free points/level, 5. Active skills. Pain diffusion. Skill level, 23. Description: Null magic field. Skill level, 21. Description: Blood of ruin. Skill level, 16. Description: Blood nullification. Skill level, 5. Description: Rain of blood. Skill level, 2. Description: Metallicized blood. Skill level, 17. Description: Blood empowerment. Skill level, 13. Description: Blood swarm. Skill level, 8. Description: Beast transformation. Skill level, static. Description: Metallicized blood claws. Skill level, 27. Description: Life absorption. Skill level, 30. Description: Partial shift. Skill level, static. Description: Blood pull. Skill level, 20. Description: Blood chains. Skill level, 18. Description: Blood diffusion. Skill level, 15. Description: Gradual corruption nullification. Skill level, 20. Description: Blood plague. Skill level, 15. Description: Crimson overdrive. Skill level, 20. Description: Blood shadow. Skill level, 10. Description: Blood retribution. Skill level, 12. Description: Blood armor. Skill level, 10. Description: Blood manifestation. Skill level, 10. Description: Blood sacrifice. Skill level, 10. Description: Blood boil. Skill level, 10. Description: Blood bank. Skill level, 10. Description: Passive skills. Blood regeneration. Skill level, 21. Description: Blood aura. Skill level, static. Description: Blood absorption. Skill level, static. Description: Sanguine effect. Skill level, static. Description: Life sense. Skill level, 16. Description: Apex predator. Skill level, static. Description: Bloodthirst. Skill level, 15. Description: Bloody thorns. Skill level, 15. Description: Well, at the very least, my status looks cooler now. What with the red skill there and the title. Although. I glance at Tar, who still seems to be a little dazed, before smiling brightly, perhaps a little too brightly, and asking, "So when are you going to eat your tail?" His head jerks around to stare at me with horror on his face, only for the tanuki to vanish without a hint of hesitation. "Coward," I mutter while lying down on the ash-covered ground. Then I just stare up at the sky in a daze of my own for who knows how long, ignoring the buzzing messages I feel coming from my terminal. This is going to be a long day. At least the skill is incredibly good. Moments before the universal notification. Blake smiles to himself as he looks at his status, reveling in the new skill he had just bought. But his joy is cut short when a universal notification appears in front of his vision, following which every last demon and human stops battling at the same time all throughout the battlefield. Warning! This is a universal notification. Scarlet Art Esker de Arcaren has attained a new title-bearing mythic skill. Scarlet has now attained the title, the Apex Predator. May their achievement ring out throughout the known universe. He stares blankly at the notification, meanwhile all of the humans and demons in his view do the same without a single one making a sound. Then, after an unknown amount of time passes, the demons and humans both have entirely different reactions to the notifications. Fear, shock, betrayal, and a barrage of other emotions appear on all of the other humans' faces, Meanwhile, Blake finds all of the demons celebrating. With the exception of the non-sapient demons who are being held back by their holders as said holders celebrate, cheering for their princess. She got a title. While still a few years younger than me. Blake feels despondent at that thought. The girl who he used to be far stronger than has already eclipsed him in every way, both in title and in personal power. After a few more seconds for this realization to settle in, Blake sits down on a nearby bench located at the top of the mountain. Then he sees his father appearing again exactly where he had disappeared to deal with the nobles, with a wide grin on his face. Something Blake only ever sees when the man has had his fill of fun, both in battle and his sadistic tendencies. Blake watches his father walk over to the edge of the cliff before he looks out over the battlefield where a cheer has risen up from the demons. All while the humans are still in shock. All hail the princess! All hail the princess! All hail the princess! And after over a dozen rounds of this cheer, with every last sapient demon joining in, it changes to a different cheer. All hail the apex predator! All hail the apex predator! All hail the apex predator! But Blake just continues watching in stunned silence along with every other human there. The middle of a fracture in the capital city. Minutes before the universal notification. Julian Ark, otherwise known by his guardian title the Silver Fox, spreads his arms out while creating a dozen copies of himself to distract the Class 2 demons of the fracture. And at the same time, the guardians and his team spread out to attack the demons. The battle only ends up taking a few minutes to finish before he and his team head towards the closest bunker, opening the door and letting the kid they were escorting inside. But a universal notification appears in everyone's vision right when they're about to close the bunker door again. Warning! This is a universal notification. Scarlet Art Esker de Arcaren has attained a new title-bearing mythic skill. Scarlet has now attained the title, the Apex Predator. May their achievement ring out throughout the known universe. Julian somehow manages to trip in place, making him fall on his face. Meanwhile, all of his teammates and the people inside of the bunker go silent from the shock of it. But their silence doesn't last long as they quickly begin muttering amongst each other. Arcaren? Isn't that the royal family name of the demons? Arcaren? She's a demon? But isn't that dash? The muttering continues for several seconds while Julian climbs back to his feet, unable to speak as his eyes are glued to the notification. He then just stares at the notification all the way till it disappears, and even after that. She's a demon, but how? How could she be? Eventually, the muttered conversations take a turn when a buzzing sound echoes from everyone's terminals along with a ringing noise or a vibration from the civilians' phones. So Julian numbly checks his terminal, only to find a surprise on it. Huh? Written on his terminal is an emergency message sent by the 5 Knights of Humanity in bold letters with a link to Purple's previous prophetic livestreams and a picture of Scarlet Esker. Or I guess she's not Scarlet Esker, damn, that's I don't know how to take this. But she saved my life. She deserves my trust. Julian, with his eyes filled with determination despite the notification, quickly begins reading the emergency message. The princess of both worlds has been found. Scarlet Art Esker de Arcaren, daughter of the White Knight of Humanity and the Blood Calamity Demon Lord, granddaughter to the Demon King and Beast of the Apocalypse, has been designated the princess to both worlds foretold by the Purple Knight of Humanity. For over a year now, she has toiled to bring peace to both worlds, defending the humans from the demons, fighting on their side of the war, and changing the Demon King's mind about killing human civilians. She has made the first step forward towards peace against the undefeatable and immortal Demon King that has ever been taken before. While she may be part blood lycan, she also has a kind heart and is the only one who can prepare both worlds for the threat that is to come. Foretold by both the Witches of Tartarus and the Purple Knight of Humanity, a threat will come from the void to wipe out the universe. And to face that threat, humanity must work together with the demons. But be warned, for the demons are strong enough to take control of Earth entirely should they wish it in the next few years. Earth's only hope of survival and independence is the princess. We, the Knights of Humanity, hope you make the right choice. Julian's mouth parts open as he stares at the announcement after finishing reading it. Then his eyes move to the video after the livestream after the announcement. One that has the White Knight of Humanity, the Black Knight of Humanity, the Purple Knight of Humanity, and even the Blue Knight of Humanity. Then, after several seconds pass with muttering growing stronger from the civilians and his teammates around him, the Red Knight of Humanity eventually joins them. The heir to the Magic Arc Corporation narrows his eyes slightly as he sees the livestream begin. Jacob R. Ashton stares blankly at the livestream, feeling unsure of how he should be right now. Because he knew White had been hiding something, but the government official who had overseen Scarlet's registration as a guardian still trusted her absolutely and didn't think whatever she was hiding would be this severe. But now, as he watches the livestream, he can't help but wonder. Was this all planned? Did she have Scarlet with the blood calamity just to bring the worlds together? Or does she truly love the blood lycan demon lord? Jacob continues staring at the livestream until White finally steps forward and begins speaking. Hello people of the Terran Republic, my name is Amelia Esker, but most of you may know me as the White Knight of Humanity. To start things off, I did in fact have a child with the blood calamity demon lord, and that child is the guardian you all know as the Scarlet Wolf. What many of you might find hard to believe is that not all demons are bad. Most of them are simply following the orders of the Demon King, who wishes to take over Earth in order to clear the curses from the demon race. But after his granddaughter, my daughter, and the princess of the demons asked him to stop, he decided to ban his demon forces from attacking the civilians. White clenches her fists. My daughter did that. She has already saved millions of lives just from that act alone, and she has been saving countless more over her time as a guardian both on and off the front lines. So please. Jacob's eyes widen in absolute shock when the White Knight of Humanity bows down before the camera and says, please lay any and all of your hatred towards me and leave her out of it. Please do not hate her for her demon blood. I beg of you. And Jacob's shock doesn't end there as the Black Knight of Humanity steps forward and joins her in bowing as he says, all 5 of us knights knew about this, so please lay your blame on me as well. The Scarlet Wolf deserves none of it. She had no choice in any of this and was left in fear ever since she found out she was part demon a little over a year ago. So please. Don't hate her. Then the Purple Knight of Humanity simply nods her head, her eyes still closed when she says, they speak the truth, and nothing more. Yeah, the Red Knight of Humanity says while smiling with his arms crossed and moving up close to the livestream, I personally want to fight the Scarlet Wolf when she reaches my level of strength, so don't you dare go harassing the little fiend. Jacob feels a chill run down his spine at that declaration, but he's too surprised by the sight that follows to care as the Blue Knight of Humanity slowly steps forwards and says, demon or not, the Scarlet Wolf is the only one who is capable of saving the Earth. Believe of her as you will, but know that when you make your decision. The knights let nearly an entire minute pass in silence before the ones bowing finally raise their heads, and following that, White begins speaking again. Now, I would like to explain the prophecy to you all to help you make a decision. They had this all prepared beforehand. It's obvious. There's no way they could have prepared this all within moments of the girl getting her title. Absolutely no way. Which means they've been holding off, waiting for the girl to get exposed so that they can immediately flip public interest and promote their own plans. Jacob smiles ever so slightly at the thought. That White hasn't changed all these years. Then he blinks and his smile grows wider. No. She has changed. The White I know would never make a public speech and apology like that. And it must be because of her daughter. Just what type of girl can change her to this extreme? I wonder. Jacob's smile grows even more as White begins explaining the prophecy. I think I might want to meet with Scarlet. Jacob chuckles at that but keeps watching the livestream, nonetheless. Things are getting interesting again. Alan's office. How is it? Alan asks with some trepidation as he watches White's livestream while pacing back and forth in his office. Something he's been doing ever since he saw the universal notification exposing his adopted daughter's identity. He suddenly pauses his pacing. Wait, can we even legally adopt her now that she's officially the princess of the demons, daughter of the White Knight of Humanity and the Blood Calamity Demon Lord, and the granddaughter of the Demon King? That thought has his nerves getting even worse, only for Belle to answer from her place seated on one of the sofas in his office, "It's looking good so far." Alan lets out a short sigh of relief as he starts pacing again. But after only a few seconds, he gives in to his nerves and finally opens the livestream's chat for the night's broadcast. Blue Sky Dreamer, well, Scarlet has always been helping the people. Firestorm 23, right? And I've never seen her do anything bad. Is she really a demon? Aquamarine, well, she would have to be considering that she has the royal name Arcaren. But she isn't a bad person. Not like White, who hid this all from us, and even her own daughter. Alan winces slightly at that last one. Something he no doubt believes is directed towards the beginning of the prophecy that White had begun to explain. The part about abandoning her daughter to leave her at an orphanage without telling her anything about her heritage or the prophecy. She's doing a good job of redirecting any hate away from Scarlet, but does she have to redirect it all to herself? Belle asks, sounding a little sad but also happy that Scarlet is being accepted so far. I think she's trying to do it as a way to repent for what she did to her own daughter, Alan mutters while scratching the back of his head with his arm not attached to his terminal. Alan continues reading more of the chat, finding it hard to keep up due to the millions of messages passing through it at a time, forcing him to delay the chat just to be able to read them. Thunderbolt 87, I think Scarlet is fine. There can't be anything wrong with a cute girl with wolf ears. Starry Night Scarlet is a nice girl with a dark past. There's no reason to hold her mother's actions against the daughter. Moonlit Garden, but what if she goes all demon on us and starts attacking people at random? Golden Eagle 99, that's not possible. The majority of the sapient demons are just as intelligent as a human, and Scarlet is a pride demon. Her curse won't make her lose control and attack people at random. The worst it might do is make her attack an enemy she was already attacking and losing against. Nothing more than that. Celestial_9 Wait, really? I thought all demons attacked indiscriminately. Starry Eyes 123 No, the only reason the demons in the fractures and in the demon army are attacking us is because of the Demon King's orders. Maverick 89, the same Demon King that is the grandfather of the Scarlet Wolf? Are you sure we can trust her? Starry Eyes 123, she already convinced the Demon King to stop attacking civilians, so I say we trust her. Tears build up in Alan's eyes as he continues reading the chat, even if a lot of it appears to target White rather harshly. But their plan seems to have worked. He then looks to the east in the direction of the eastern continent where Scarlet is before muttering, "Now it's all up to you, sweetie." I blankly stare at all of the messages in the livestream as Amelia finishes up her explanation of the prophecy, basically just outlining the thing without telling any of the specifics except for what has already occurred up till now. But no matter how long I stare, I can't wrap my mind around how everything has transpired. The way I thought this would play out is all of the humans immediately turning on me and hating me for being a demon and the granddaughter of the Demon King. And now? Now most people at least publicly seem fine with me again while they're instead hating on Amelia. Just how? If I had to guess, Amelia probably had everything planned out to the last detail about your reveal. Tar comments from his place on my shoulder as I continue sitting on a tree near the ash-covered crater I made with the Red Knight. Yeah. She had to have. There's no other possible explanation. But to take all of the blame on herself? Did she really have to do that? There might have been other ways to handle it, but this was the fastest and most efficient method, Tar says. It's also a way for her to punish herself for what she did to you. A way to punish herself. I purse my lips at the thought before leaning back on the tree and staring up at the full moon in the sky. This is a lot to take in at once. You can think about how to treat Amelia after this later, Tar suddenly says, making me glance at him with confusion etched onto my face. For now, it'd be a good idea to head to the main battlefield, otherwise the demons and humans will start fighting again after the demons calm down. Right. I almost forgot about that. Can't waste the momentum Amelia just made. With that thought in mind, I begin running towards the main battlefield. While in my lycan form, of course. Because I don't want to aggravate the humans there. I arrive on a mountainside overlooking the main battlefield, only to find the demons and humans having separated on both sides of the battlefield. And while the humans are all discussing things amongst themselves, mostly about Amelia and how she'd betrayed both humanity and her own daughter, the demons are all cheering for the apex predator and princess of the demons. Overall a rather odd sight to behold. Particularly because they aren't attacking each other. All of the sapient demons are tightly holding the reins of the non-sapient ones, meanwhile the nobles are holding the reins of the sapient ones likely to lose control of themselves in a battlefield to their sin. Not that the nobles need to restrain them, considering how even those demons are cheering their hearts out. So you came? I suddenly hear a familiar voice, making me look over to find both Red and his son Blake standing several meters away from me, the two of them somehow having arrived without my knowing. And the sight of Red being there makes me quickly look at the live stream, only to find that the only knight still there is Amelia, who is calmly answering questions from the chat. I look back up at the battlefield again as I mutter, yeah. Can't waste the opportunity Amelia gave me. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice a smirk stretching across Red's face. A smirk that honestly makes me want to punch him. But I can't. Because that would be a death sentence. I can punch him when I'm strong enough to not have to worry about his retaliation in the future. Wow, great compromise there, Tar says with a snort. In my head, of course. Yes. That it is. He snorts again. In that case, let me help you, Red suddenly says, making me blink in surprise before turning to look at him. Apex predator. Then a geyser of black flame suddenly shoots up from beneath my feet, carrying me up into the air, without harming me somehow. And at the same time, it manages to gather quite the number of gazes. And the owners of those gazes then point me out to everyone around them, making me the center of attention from almost everyone after just a short period of time. Silence soon fills the entire battlefield, following which the geyser holding me up comes back down and I land firmly on my feet back on the ground. Then, as if he hadn't just done that, Red just walks up with a smirk on his face and hands me a microphone while patting a massive speaker that had appeared out of nowhere. Probably a spatial storage. Although why he had one on hand, I don't know. I take the microphone before turning to look at the hundreds of millions of people who all have their eye on me. And despite all of their gazes, I don't feel nervous at all. But then again, I was never particularly shy. Just that I dislike dealing with other people, so I avoid them. If I were to get shy though, this is probably the time I'd expect it. But nope. Nothing. I step forward with the mic in my hand, the eyes of millions of people following my every move from all across the massive battlefield. A battlefield that's so massive that the only reason I can even almost see the other end of it is because of the very large mountain we're standing on. Being nervous and knowing what to say are two entirely different things though. Tar snorts, making the corner of my lips quirk up ever so slightly. I let out a short sigh before raising the microphone to my mouth and narrowing my eyes before saying, "Hello, my name is Scarlet, but many of you here now know me as Scarlet Ardescar de Arcaren, the apex predator, daughter of the White Knight of Humanity, princess of the demon world, and Scarlet Wolf." My voice resonates throughout the entire massive valley and the mountains beyond, whatever speaker Red is using obviously being a piece of Magitech equipment. But I ignore that as I smirk slightly and say, "And I have a proposition for you all." Oh? This ought to be interesting, I hear Tar mutter in my mind. First, would a representative for the humans, and for the demons, come up here? I ask, my voice echoing throughout the battlefield. Then in just a single instant, someone appears next to us. Someone that I recognize from TV. Satan. And I'm not the only one as everyone down on the battlefield starts muttering to themselves as well, the demons out of loyalty and fear, and the humans out of fear and, well, fear. Red steps forwards with his helmet held underneath his arm, the man still wearing the same red armor he has been wearing all night as he says, "I'll be the representative for the humans." He glances at the people down below while adding, "If that's all right with you lot. Is this microphone even necessary?" "No, it's not," Red says, bringing my gaze to find him staring at me with a smirk on his face, his eyes alternating between mine and the microphone. "Asshole. It would be my pleasure to serve as the demon's representative, Your Highness," Satan says, bringing both my and Red's attention back to him to find the man bowing slightly. And something I just noticed is that he looks rather similar to Vorgrim, the Lord of Hellfire. Satan Blackthorn of the Black Flame, only level 1773. Oh, wow. This guy really is strong enough to take down Red without much trouble. Even if there is a level gap of a few dozen levels between them, the simple matter of him being an Oni is enough to make that level gap obsolete. To the point that he's stronger by a fair margin. And that's the exact same family and clan names as Vorgrim. Vorgrim Blackthorn of the Black Flame. Does that mean? As you may have surmised, Your Highness, my father is the Lord of Hellfire, Satan says, making my eyes go wide in surprise. And even Red looks surprised at that, much less Blake, who is just standing here for no reason at all by the looks of it. It also seems to surprise our onlooking humans, but that's to be expected. What's also surprising me quite a bit is how civilized Satan is being compared to his father, who probably would have started a fight or at least laughed by now. They're like night and day so far. Then representatives of Earth and Tartarus, I would like to propose a little bet, I tell the two, making both of them focus their attention on me. Meanwhile, all of the noise throughout the battlefield goes silent as my voice echoes out across the vast expanse of valley. One that I believe my grandfather would be okay with taking. Satan looks at me for a few seconds before slowly stating, I would need to check in with His Majesty before anything would become official. I nod at that with a brief, of course. I doubt humanity has much of anything to lose in this gamble, so I'm happy to hear you out, little fiend, Red says, making my eye twitch at the sound of that pet name he's given me echoing throughout the battlefield. Deciding to ignore Red's annoying behavior since we're speaking to hundreds of millions of people right now, probably even more as I'm sure there are some people live streaming this, I spread my arms out and state, how about this? If Earth is able to push the demons all the way back to Demon Isle and keep the demons from the Arctic Gate in the Arctic, my grandfather will give up on subjugating Earth until it is proven without a shadow of a doubt whether or not I will be able to remove the demon curses myself. Both Satan and Red's eyes widen in shock, neither of them apparently expecting such a bold bet from me right now. But the humans down below seem to be considering it. And it doesn't take long for some cheers to break out, making the hint of a smile appear on my face. Then most of the human guardians down there all begin cheering. Which makes sense. Everyone at this point realizes that Earth, the humans, we have absolutely no chance at victory against the demons. All we've been doing is fighting in desperation to survive ever since the Class V fracture that opened up in the capital and brought me to Tartarus. The only real progress we've gotten was when I got here, and that was partially because they didn't want to hurt the blood lycan attacking them, couldn't send their Class V forces away from the main battlefield and from dealing with our class versus, and didn't know where I would strike. Not to mention my plagues. After several seconds filled with nothing but the Guardian's cheers, Satan finally regains his composure and asks, the bet doesn't sound too outrageous, but it is missing something. His eyes narrow. You've stated what the demons will do if you manage to succeed, but what will the humans do if you fail? That silences the Guardians watching us rather quickly. Then everyone just watches on without saying a word as I smirk. I saw this one coming a while ago. If there's one thing I know the demons want, it's that. You're really going to bet that for this? You can't exactly take it back, you know that, right? Tar says, not actually sounding worried despite his words. Probably because he believes in me to win this bet. I mean, something could always go wrong. Yeah, but I believe in myself. You asked what the humans will do if we fail? I ask, still smirking and blatantly ignoring the camera flash I see out of the corner of my eye. That's simple. I cross my arms as I answer, if we fail, then I will move to live in Tartarus permanently as the princess of the demons, and will no longer assist the humans. Then I tilt my head, still smirking at the shocked look on the demon's face. That enough for you? Whispered conversations begin to echo throughout the entire battlefield, both from the demons and the humans. And while the demons sound extremely happy with this arrangement, as I thought they would, the humans sound conflicted. Some of them are saying that I shouldn't be the only one bearing the burden of humanity's loss in this bet, while others are saying it's only right since I'm a demon and need to earn their trust. Most are saying that it wouldn't be right though, leaving the others to be a minority. I'm surprised you just went out and did that, Tar comments from his place on my shoulder. Yeah, well, I don't really have the right to bet anything of humanity's, and this is something I know the demons, and especially Gramps, all want. Pretty sure Leonidas wants it too. There would have to be some rules to the bet, since it would be unfair if you all just continued sending more and more nobles to Earth and eventually brute forced your way to victory, I add, still with a smirk on my face. But I'm sure we can work those details out, right? Satan finally smiles and reaches his hand out, saying, yes. I believe we can. But when I grab his hand in return, he frowns slightly and adds, we'll have to speak with your grandfather for you to negotiate this, so I would prepare for that if I were you, Your Highness. Negotiating with Gramps, that'll be interesting. Also, why do I feel like there are millions of glares locked on us right now? And why is Satan looking so awkward right now as he looks behind me? Because every last demon out there with any sapience is glaring at him for daring to touch their princess, Tar says, sounding more than a little amused. So I let go of the man's hand, giving him a break from the death glares his own army is sending him. Regardless of the fact that none of them could actually harm him, being glared at that way by your own army under your command is probably not a pleasant experience. I will prepare for the meeting with His Majesty, so please be ready within the next few days, Satan says with a nod of his head before vanishing in a wave of hellfire. And Red just looks between me and the fading hellfire, before eventually staring at me and asking, why did you need a human representative again? I blink at that question, only to shrug and answer, to make it look official? He just stares at me, meanwhile more than a few of the humans below all start laughing. The man shakes his head after a few seconds, before vanishing in a wave of hellfire, exactly like Satan just did. Which I find rather ironic, and judging by the look on his son's face, I'm not the only one. Also, he kinda just ditched his son here. Did he forget about him or something? Maybe? Tar half asks, half states. I glance to the side, finding that the speaker is gone as well. Although I'm not sure when he took it. So, Blake suddenly says, his voice not echoing through the valley like all of our voices were doing before, bringing my attention to him. Long time no see. Long time no, did he stay behind to talk? Looks like it, Tar says before yawning and closing his eyes as if he were going to sleep. And he actually does go to sleep after a few seconds. Guess so, I answer Blake while pulling up my terminal and turning it off sleep mode to then search through forums online. And right away, I find recorded videos and live streams both of my negotiation with Satan and of me just standing here right now. Which has me glancing towards the angle of the camera recording me before narrowing my eyes and finding a Class 3 Guardian with his terminal pointed my way. And almost immediately after noticing my gaze, they all turn their cameras away from me. So I look back at the live streams and the chats on the videos to find that all of it is actually positive. Everyone seems okay with me still. Although I wouldn't be surprised if the government or Amelia were managing any people with harsh words. Just to direct the public opinion. PR aside, they also appear to like that I made a bet with the demons to make them give up on Earth if we win. One that doesn't involve any risk on Earth's part for losing. Unless they consider losing me a risk. It looks like I made the right decision. Although whether we can actually back it up and win this thing, I'm not too sure about that. There are over 100,000 class versus on the other side of the gate, and they'll be sending more over on a regular basis. So even if there's only about 150 something now, there will be more in the future. And the ones here now already outnumber the class versus from Earth. Meaning it's not looking very good. I'll have to reach Class V myself if I want a chance. Because at that point I should be able to take a large majority of them even if only due to Apex Predator alone. skills are still far more important in battle than level after all. And a mythic skill is at the, well, apex of all skills. I'm glad Tar was asleep for that. Probably would have said something snarky about it. I glance at him to find that he really is asleep this time, so I return my attention finally to Blake, who had been silent as I was looking at my terminal. Did you need something? I ask him while tilting my head slightly, my hair falling over my shoulder a little and making me glance down at it. Yeah, I need a haircut. Too bad my hair is too strong for scissors that aren't specially made or enchanted to cut. A rather large pain if I'm being honest. Especially since my hair just grows right back, not too long after anyways. Like an entire foot of length in just a month. Ridiculous. I raise my head to look at Blake after finding his silence odd, only to narrow my eyes slightly at the sight of what I think is a blush. I utter, not really sure about what to say before remembering the whole crush thing Red mentioned. Oh. Right. That. Sorry, but I have no interest in dating or ever having any sort of romantic relationships. His face lights up like a candle. Thought so. It's fine, he says with a slight stutter before taking a deep breath and then calmly finishing, would you like to walk with me to the base? I can catch you up on some things that be gone down at the university along the way. And keep anyone else away, if you'd like. I blink at his proposal. That doesn't sound half bad. A little surprising he'd suggest this after being rejected though. Sure, I answer with a shrug before we begin walking across the mountain in the direction of the main base. And as we walk, I can't help but notice both the human and demon armies retreating for now. Good. You are going to be the death of me one of these days, you hear that? Alan complains as soon as the call connects, making me blink in surprise before tilting my head slightly in confusion. And to make matters worse? You don't even know why. Alan trails off only to shake his head and mutter, oh, whatever. I'm glad you're safe and that things turned out well. I frown for a second, unsure of what he was gonna scold me over, only to shrug myself and smile as I say, same. Is it safe to say you saw White's livestream? Alan asks, and I nod my head. I was pretty surprised by that, not gonna lie. But I knew she cared about you, so probably not as surprised as you were. I hum in response, not really sure what to say to that as I lie down in my bed back at my suite in the base with my terminal being displayed on a large screen on the ceiling above the bed. Amelia has always, from what I've seen since meeting her, cared about me in her own strange way. She tends to make decisions on her own without talking to others, and often ends up regretting those decisions in the future. At least, as far as I'm concerned. But she also takes responsibility for the decisions, so she means well. It was a shock, I eventually say before closing my eyes. I bet it was. I hear Belle's voice coming from the other side of the call, making me open my eyes again for a moment to see her poking her head over her father's shoulder and pushing his head out of the way, to his irritation. How are things going, Miss Apex Predator? Better than I expected, I answer honestly. Far better than I expected. When are you planning on going to meet with Satan? She asks, only to start fussing when Alan pushes her away and instead seemingly switches the call over to a TV so they can both be in the screen. I raise a brow at their antics before closing my eyes again and answering, I'll be going first thing tomorrow morning and meeting up with Red to head to Demon Isle, where we're going to be speaking with my grandfather through a skill of one of his subordinates. Since Gramps can't actually come here personally. Silence follows for a few seconds, so I open my eyes to find the two of them looking slightly surprised for some reason. You call the Demon King, Alan begins, following which Belle finishes while covering her mouth, Gramps? Then the two start laughing, making me feel a slight blush reach my cheeks. Something I will never admit happened. I turn my head, lying on my cheek instead to look away as I mutter, so what if I do? They just laugh even harder. Which has my blush growing a deeper shade of red. Idiots, I mutter quietly to myself, not that it stops them from hearing and laughing even harder. But despite the situation, I can't help but smile a little as well. Since I haven't been able to talk with them much since coming back to Earth. Even if that's my own fault for focusing on hunting over spending time with them. much to Belle's chagrin. The main problem though is that I just don't have the time. Not when I need to be strong enough to deal with the void creatures. And while apex predators plus 100% stats will come in extremely useful in the future, stats are not the main source of power for a person. Skills are. Both skill levels, high rarity skills, and a variety of skills. Not to mention that Class B gives vastly different stats out per level than the classes prior to it give. Gramps actually mentioned that blood lycans get 5 points in physical, 4 in mental, and 5 in magical, along with 10 free points per level, unlike right now where I only get 2 in physical, 1 in mental, 2 in magical, and 5 free points per level. A rather large jump. And that's not even considering how the multipliers for a Class B are over twice the multipliers for a Class 4, making them over twice as strong even at just a single level above a Class 4. All because Class Versus have their body and their reality fully merged into one, unlike Class IVs who only have them partially merged, and any class below that who doesn't have them merged at all. I honestly can't wait to reach Class V for no other reason than the massive difference in power it gives. It might not be as far as many would suspect, Tar comments, making me smile even more. Yeah. As long as I continue hunting demons on the battlefield. Someone looks happy, Alan says, making me turn back over to face the ceiling as I smother my smile rather quickly. Too quickly, apparently. Too late for that. I roll my eyes. How's the university been anyways? I ask Belle, feeling rather curious about it. Because despite her fighting on the front lines as well, she's still attending university. Something I kinda just stopped doing due to my lack of time. Belle smiles at that and answers, boring. I chuckle at that blunt answer. I mean it, she exclaims while swinging her hands out wide, barely missing her father who ducks under it before glaring at her. But she just ignores him while continuing, the university is just teaching us battle tactics and strategies now. It isn't what a university is supposed to be. We're supposed to be having fun and enjoying college, not training and learning battle tactics every day all day long. Excuse me, Alan interjects with a frown as he crosses his arms and says, "You're the one who asked to go there. And you're also the one who wanted to go to the front lines, which is probably what's eating up your free time." Belle opens her mouth for a second before casually looking at me and smiling. "Ah, it's getting late. You should head to bed, Scarlet. I'm sure you're tired." Several seconds pass in silence as I stare, before I eventually yawn and slowly begin to close my eyes. Maybe I should go to sleep even if I don't biologically need it anymore, it does still help with stress. And a lot has happened over the past day. After meeting up with Red, we both rush through the sky straight towards Demon Isle in a large black fireball that doesn't actually feel hot. Not even in the slightest. When I asked why it wasn't Amelia going with me, I was told that she was busy in the Arctic, and since he was the representative for the humans during the bet, even if he didn't do anything, he was responsible for coming with me to see it through. Which makes sense, even if I don't really like the guy. I look around at the many demons we pass over, each of whom that are actually able to keep up with us with their eyes. Bow to me as we pass. Which would have felt strange and awkward a year ago, but thanks to my time on Tartarus feels normal now. There's only so much bowing and scraping you can accept from people before you become numb to it after all. And there was a lot of bowing to you, Tar comments offhandedly from his place in the in-between. Yep. That there was. We continue flying through the air with the two of us just floating in the middle of the fireball with nearly a meter in between us until we finally cross into the ocean. Then not too long after that we make it to Demon Isle. And despite being called Demon Isle, it's actually not a half bad looking place. Rather tropical in a way. Nothing like Tartarus. Also full of demons. But unlike Tartarus, the only demons on Demon Isle seem to be the sapient ones. Which is an interesting sight to see. Kind of reminds me of a more civil version of the cities on Tartarus. Come to think of it, I glance at Red and ask, "You've been to Tartarus before, right? What all did you do there, aside from hunt demons?" He looks at me, seemingly surprised that I actually spoke to him, before he looks down again and says, "Run for my life." I blink at that answer, unsure of how to take it from the guy obsessed with fighting even more than some people I know. "Did you just refer to yours?" Tar starts, but I cut him off by asking, "I thought you had black and purple covering your location from the Demon King?" Red looks even more surprised by that until he seems to realize something and says, "The Demon King told you about that, did he?" And when I nod, he just looks back down at the ground again and says, "Our time on Tartarus was a lot more complicated than just that. Will and Gabrielle both hid us from the Demon King's sight, along with an entire continent. So it wasn't hard for him to guess where we were." "Oh, so he was hunting you all down the whole time through the continent? But wouldn't he have been able to find you pretty quickly just from running across the continent or moving between blood deposits?" I ask, genuinely curious about what went down. And Red seems inclined to answer me, despite his rather sadistic and terrible personality. Something I kind of appreciate, but also have no idea why he's doing this. "It's possible he's doing it to endear his son to you," Tar points out, surprising me for a moment before Red looks at me again and mutters, "The Demon King really does just tell you whatever, doesn't he?" Likely due to my knowledge of Gramps' skills. Then he shakes his head and faces forwards as he answers my question. "The 5 of us split up to go our own ways through the southwestern desert continent, and even if he is fast enough to pass through the continent from one end to the other in just minutes, it doesn't mean he'll be able to search every last person. He would also be making it obvious what he's doing if he tried, so it wouldn't be that hard to hide when his magical senses are blocked." Oh. So that's how they did it. Probably a massive pain though, since they would have been on edge the entire time wondering if the Demon King was gonna suddenly charge through the continent at any moment in time. "Of the 5 of us, your mother went to the Mesa of Illusions where she ended up meeting your father, and I went to the Oni Citadel and snuck into the Oni's hunting grounds just to check the place out," Red says, sounding slightly stiff as he does. "Which is where I met a few Oni and had some wonderful sparring matches with them." Yes, my father still speaks of that to this day. I suddenly hear another voice, one I recognize as Satan from the battlefield yesterday. And when I turn around, the fireball we're in stopping immediately, I find Satan floating in the sky with his own black flame covering him, except not in the form of a fireball like Red. Although I get the feeling Red doesn't need the fireball and is only using it to carry me. "Welcome, Your Highness. It is a pleasure to see you again." Meanwhile, he just ignores Red. Which I find rather amusing. At least, he ignores him until Red smugly grins at him and says, "Your father said I was more talented in Hellfire than you were." His own son. How embarrassing. Satan immediately glares daggers at the man, making me briefly wonder if Red has too many screws loose in his head. Then I remember that he does indeed have screws loose in his head, just like the other knights. Actually, now that I think about it, if he spent time with some of the Oni on Tartarus, doesn't that explain why he is as he is? Also, why didn't the Demon King do anything about it? I guess it's possible the Oni just never reported him. Or they may have never known who he was at that point. I don't think the knights had their titles yet then after all. My line of thoughts comes to a halt when I notice that black flames are literally leaking out of Satan and Red's eyes as they glare at each other. Yeah, I should stop them from fighting. It wouldn't end well for Red when he doesn't have another knight backing him.